another manager's choice of play. Yes, when they're one of the lesser sides, when it's like Arsenal were doing it to Bolton because you saw Arsene Wenger bristling, and we all used to laugh going, you can't take it up yet. Right?
But you quite liked what Ursula said at the end of that game last night, didn't you?
No, not really. I have a bias because he's a Brighton manager.
EFL clubs have voted to expand the Championship playoffs down to 8th from next season. Former playoff-winning chairman Simon Jordan says it's a win on and off the field.
But the fact of the matter is that the predominant opportunity is for them to finance it better, but the secondary benefit is that there's more engagement, and as you say, it creates more jeopardy for more sides with more opportunity. I'm surprised we're not talking about playoffs or the relegation scenarios. That'll be the next conversation.
Do you think that'll come?
I don't think it should.
Well, 3rd and 4th in the Championship table will go straight to the semi-final. The next 4 teams will play a one-legged quarter-final with the 5th and 6th place sides at home. In the top flight, Simon's former club Palace head to Spurs tonight. Oliver Glasner says Igor Tudor presents something of a tactical mystery.
Played in the 3-5-2 against Arsenal and in the 4-4-2 against Fulham. I know him from Marseille because he was Marseille manager when we played them with Frankfurt in the Champions League. There he played in the 3-4-3. He very often mirrored their opposition, so I don't know.
Now, talkSPORT understands Man City are stepping up their interest in Elliot Anderson after his cracker of an equaliser against Pep's side last night. Forest value their midfielder at £70 million. The FA has charged Pedro Neto for acting in an improper manner following his sending off against Arsenal. He allegedly failed to leave the pitch promptly and dished out abusive language towards the officials, having been shown the red. Meanwhile, lots of moaning about boring Arsenal from the teams who can't beat them, including Brighton. But David Moyes, whose team face the Gunners next weekend, says that criticism comes from those who don't know ball.
Nobody's really looked as if they've been catching them. And yeah, Man City are having a good go at it, but let's be fair, I don't think anybody would have expected them to sort of walk off with it and nobody challenged them at all. I think Mikel's done a brilliant job.
And ahead of this weekend's F1 season opening race in Australia, Aston Martin principal Adrian Newey admits their cars are not ready. Drivers Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll say the steering wheel is vibrating so much they'll get permanent nerve damage if they complete the race.
You're listening to Kick-Off on talkSPORT, and for the next 3 hours we will be looking back on all the big talking points from the Premier League this midweek. Arsenal now 7 points clear at the top of the table, but do you like their style of football? I'm with someone who might not. More on that to come. The relegation picture is also looking interesting. We'll bring you regular updates on the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as Spurs welcome Crystal Palace tonight in a big game near the bottom. And we'll be discussing the top 5 race, if Brentford could make Europe. Also, is the Premier League really boring? And with World Cup less than 100 days away, we'll be asking who makes Pardew's plane. This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT. Good evening to you, Alan Pardew.
It's all kicked off today.
You have caused a stir. I think that is fair to say.
Yeah.
Are you all well, though?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, all good.
Right, should we just get to it then? What on earth did you say last night?
Well, it seems to have got, Arsenal fans in a real tiz, including my cabbie, Ben Hay, who was a big fella, by the way. He was really upset. He was trying to explain to me that it's low blocks they have to face every week, etc., etc. Just make one thing clear. The asterisk is not a real thing. I'm not the CEO of the Premier League. It's not actually going to happen.
Right.
So let's put that
You don't
clear.
have that power or so.
No, it was a cheeky line, really, to reflect a frustrating night of watching Arsenal get over the line. I mean, obviously, they're under a lot of pressure to get results. So they're playing inhibited. I get that. But, the Premier League is a tough watch. And that was my main point. The whole Premier League is, coming from a place where I think the more natural, more beautiful game that we're used to in the Premier League and of past winners is being subdued somewhat. And the low block, the gamemanship tactics, the set plays, in particular long throws, which have now become a real issue in the Premier League of slowing the game down while we wait for the long throw and the set-up, etc., etc. And I think that's my big issue, that the point I was trying to make, it was a cheeky line about the asterisks, but the point I was making is that it's a tough watch, the league at the moment. I think the Premier League, and I think a lot of people who remember, my age and maybe a little bit sort of over 40s are finding it hard to watch the Premier League. This is our biggest export in England, the Premier League. It's a massive industry for us. We want it to reflect us really well. And I think that's where there is, the conflict I have a little bit. And you got to remember, I was a coach that went through the system under Charles Hughes, where, maximum opportunity kind of coaching and long ball and long throws. It was ugly. It was awful in the 90s. And I don't want to see us going back to that or anything like it. But it just feels a little bit like restricted at the minute.
But just focusing on Arsenal, I think we'll come back to the point about the Premier League in general within the show. And of course, if there's anything you're hearing and you think you want to get involved, you're always welcome to do so. You can give us a call on 03717 223344, where you can also WhatsApp us on that number, or text us to 81089. But you were at the Brighton game.
Yes.
To see.
And it was tough watch.
Tough watch because, Brighton had their chances. They had more.
I actually thought,
more than Arsenal did.
The one thing about Arsenal that you have to say is the discipline in the team is extraordinary, and the work rate of the wide players, the offensive players is top notch. So very, very difficult to get at. They obviously got probably the best centre half in the league as well. Gary was magnificent, but Brighton did a good fist of it. They really tried their hardest. I know the manager came under a lot of criticism for what he said after the game. But actually, his team played very, very well. I thought it was unlucky.
Well, they certainly took the fight to Arsenal. Yeah. And if you look at the stats, and some people might not like to look at stats overall, but they had more possession, they had more shots on target. They had a higher XG as well than Arsenal. So you can see why Brighton would be disappointed that they didn't get something out of it. That being said, Arsenal won the game, courtesy of a very early goal from Bukayo Saka. And at the end of the day, at this point of the season, does it matter the style of play that Arsenal might be implementing? Is it not more about just win at all costs, just to ensure that they get that title?
Yeah, definitely. And when you are trying to fight, I remember Man United when they first won it, when Steve Bruce come up from the corner, do you remember, and heads it, in that last couple of moments of the game against, I think it was Sheffield Wednesday, I can't remember, but. I remember, some of those, that particularly that year, when you're trying to win it for the first time for a while, I think the pressure is greater. And I think they're leaning on the skill set that they have, i.e. set plays, more so than perhaps they would normally. But there was a lack of movement last night, a lack of kind of imagination in their play. There's a lot of gamemanship. And I think that rattled the Brighton crowd. And obviously the manager had kind of preempted it with his comments before the game, so the whole place was just constantly booing. So it was a tough watch, but as I said to you, the one thing I would say about Arsenal, and I said it last night on the air, is that they are so difficult to get at. They really are, and they don't open the pitch up. They don't give you an opportunity to kind of create any space against them, and when you do. They've got great defenders and a great goalie, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose at the end of the day as well, like I mentioned, it shouldn't, for me personally, and I'm not an Arsenal fan, as is well documented, but if I was an Arsenal fan, I think I would be saying, I don't care how we play, because it's all about winning. We've not won this title before, or in this team, that is. And also, in previous recent seasons, they've played better football. And what did they get out of that?
Yeah, no, actually, Ben, the cabbie, said exactly that to me. We played some brilliant football and actually come second. So I get that. So, I do have sympathy in terms of what they're trying to do, in terms of, they're trying to win the title for the first time for a long time. But I wasn't trying to be disrespectful or anything about that. I mean, I even upset Laura Woods. I mean, I love Laura Woods. My friend used to babysit her. I mean, that's how far back I go with Laura Woods.
Oh, didn't realise it was a long-term friendship.
Yeah, well, she will tell you that. But so the thing is, what I feel that they need to do, and I really hope it happens to them. They've got this cushion now, this points cushion. Maybe now they can free up a little bit. And we can see a little bit more kind of entertainment, less gamemanship. There was a lot of gamemanship last night. The goalie, obviously.
And does that disappoint you?
Yeah, well, it's just frustrating, I think. We've seen teams do it before.
Yeah.
Chelsea's Mourinho, for example, or a typical example. Some of those games that he had, there was gamemanship at the highest level. We see Chelsea last night doing the huddle on the centre circle.
Right.
There's all this. It's not just Arsenal. There's a lot of it going on. I think we're over-analytical, at times, about the opposition. I think there's more emphasis on stopping the opposition than actually ambition in opening them up. And I think that's causing what we got at the moment, a kind of, and I don't think I'm alone in this. In fact, I know I'm not, because a lot of people, call me today sort of saying about how disappointed they are with the overall performance of the Premier League.
Yeah.
In terms of the game quality. When you sit down, you want to be entertained. You want to see great players taking people on, etc., etc. So I get that.
And like I said, we'll talk more about that, I think, a little bit later on, because that is a really interesting point that has been flagged up quite a lot this season already about the entertainment side of the Premier League. But do you think that win last night, obviously coupled with what happened with Manchester City, drawing with Nottingham Forest?
Which I was astonished by. Obviously, I was at, I wasn't watching the footage, so I didn't really know how the game had unfolded. But, when we was doing the commentary last night, you're just assuming that's a victory. And this is going to be a tough night for Arsenal. In actual fact, obviously they scored early and, obviously Brighton tried their hardest, but never looked like it being anything other than an Arsenal win.
But do you think, in terms of the results then from yesterday, that this was a definitive week for Arsenal?
Yeah,
7
definitely.
points is a big gap now.
And as I said to you, they're still in 4 competitions.
Yeah.
This team needs to just kind of just go... we're almost there. Let's go and enjoy this period now. Obviously, the fans are tense. You can sense that by the reactions. I think a complete overreaction, by the way, for what I've said. But anyway, that's by.
Listen, you disrespect the club, you disrespect the fans. That's what they're
doesn't. No, don't ever disrespect any fans. In fact, I think, and I've said all along on Madge and Pards that I want Arsenal to win. I want the Premier League trophy back here in London. So, that's where I sit with it. But. The bottom line is that Arsenal now have got a great situation. They got a friendly draw in the Champions League. They got a friendly draw in the FA Cup. They have 2 very tough games against Manchester City, and where 2 trophies could be determined now.
Yeah. Just to quickly run you through the fixtures for Arsenal, and you mentioned obviously the FA Cup. They go to Mansfield on Saturday. Then they take on Bayer Leverkusen away first in that first leg, before they then have to host Everton. And Everton are going pretty well at this present moment. They're fighting for Europe. Then they've got that return leg against Bayer Leverkusen before the League Cup final against Manchester City. Then, just to race you through it, Bournemouth at home, Manchester City away in the league, Newcastle at home, Fulham at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home, followed by the final game of the season away to Crystal Palace. And you look at how things are panning out right now in the league, a lot of those games will have things riding on it for the other team too. When I'm talking about Everton.
But I think the key to that is that the next 5 Premier League games, they've got 4 at home. And that is so important to them now. And of course, they could go to the Etihad and not win, i.e., draw or lose, and still be in a good position. So you got to say that they're really got it nailed on really now. So we'll see.
But this is when the pressure does now.
Yeah, of course.
Come to the fore.
It'll be interesting to see how they cope with it, because as I say, the first time round, when Man City, on their second one, third one, it gets a little bit easier. But the first one's always very, very difficult.
Okay. We'll talk more, of course, about the title race and look back on that draw for Manchester City. Twice they took the lead against Nottingham Forest. Twice Forest fought back. Before the break, let's give you a quick recap of the team news then ahead of the only Premier League game of this evening.
Tonight,
It's a London derby. 2 teams who are not wanting to be where they are in the league right now. It's Tottenham taking on Crystal Palace. Ian Abrahams is watching it for us.
Spurs need is greater, Natalie, and Igor Tudor's made 4 changes tonight, although crucially not in goal, where Vicario was rumoured might not play tonight. does start. Danso, Souza, Sarr and Tell come in for Dragusin, Basuma, Gallagher and Simon. So it's Vicario in goal, probably a back four I'd anticipate of Porro, Danso, Van der Ven and Souza. Gray will move into midfield with Sarr and Paulinho, and then it'll be Kolo Muani and Tell either side of Solanke. As for Crystal Palace, they make a couple of changes, one enforced after the Quas sending off at the weekend, Riyad in for him. Gesson starts instead of Johnson against his former club. Henderson's in goal, back three of Richards, Riyad and Canvo. Then it will be Muniz on the right-hand side, Mitchell on the left, two in the middle will be Wharton and Kamada. Ismaila Sarr and Gasson either side of Strand, Larson up front. The Tottenham manager said yesterday this wasn't must-win. Don't think he was trying to kid anybody. It's Spurs against Palace, and we start at 8.
Ian, thank you very much. It's quite unbelievable to see that Tottenham are just a point clear of the bottom three, and Crystal Palace are on 35 points. So Tottenham could move to within, 3 or so of them should they win today. But let's not forget, they haven't won this in 2026 in the Premier League. And in fact, their last Premier League victory happened to be against Crystal Palace.
Well, of course. And, on our Sunday show, me and Madge, who's obviously a big Tottenham fan, we cover Tottenham quite thoroughly, so we know all about it. What I would say is that West Ham have put the jitters up, not just Spurs, by the way, Leeds definitely, and maybe even Palace if they get beat tonight. So, this is what happens in this Premier League, down the bottom, when people get into gear and you get an offensive player, and West Ham in Somerville have got an offensive player who's really at the top of his game. I thought the goal last night, actually, when I heard it come across down the line, because obviously it was at the Brighton game, it sounded like a simple goal. But actually, it's a clever goal. He does a clever little dummy to create the space and then bends it in exactly the right area. I mean, he's red hot. So, that bodes, and obviously they got Bowen and they got some quality players. So West Ham really give themselves a chance.
Really have.
Yeah.
When you consider when they lost to Forest at the start of the year, and now have won more games in the last few months than they did in the entirety of the start of this season, up until that, as I say, that defeat to Forest. They had only won 3.
Interestingly, one of my stats as a ex-Premier League game manager is you win 10 games in the Premier League, you stay in the division, right? That's almost guaranteed. And you look, Leeds have won 7. Tottenham have won 7, Nottingham Forest have won 7, and now West Ham have won 7. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. We will keep you updated, of course, on what happens on this game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But you're tuning in to kick off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
So it makes it more interesting, I think, Simon, for fans of other clubs. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If it was all to finish today and this was in operation now,
you'd go way down to 17th of Norwich in the league with a chance to get into the 8th spot. That's what you do.
Right.
You take 60. You take
it opens up. Yeah.
You take 66% of the league as it sits now. 18 clubs in this league could have a reasonable shout to make a claim for getting 8th spot, because there's 11 games to go in the conventional season. There's 6 points between Derby in 8th and Norwich in 17th.
Right.
And those games, and when you get running at the business end of a season, it really does change the dynamics of how people play. All of a sudden, you've got 66% of the league having something involved. Then you've got the other 25%, or 35%, sorry, sort of going to the Gabby Bongle arithmetic school, the other 34%, which would be fighting for not staying in the division. So you've got constant jeopardy in a league, which actually reminded me when I was over in America looking at the MLS and how they construct their leagues and how many teams get an opportunity to play in their playoffs and participate in outcomes for themselves. They have something like 60 or 70% of the teams in a league any given season that could feature in a playoff scenario.
Right.
So it's all
Does
about...
it affect the quality? There's a message coming through there. You're telling me that 8th could end up going to the Premier League. Surely, that ain't
have to
good in terms of the quality of the club that's going to go
Well,
up.
there's nip and tuck. More often than not, when you finish 6th in the league, and we went up as a team that finished 6th, there was the points total. I think West Ham finished behind us and Wigan finished behind us in the league, and they were like a point difference. So tell me there's a point difference between 6th and 8th. Pack it in.
This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT. Pleasure to have your company this evening. It's Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. We'll keep you regularly updated on what happens in that Premier League game between Tottenham and Crystal Palace. But right now, it's time for us to bring you an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Good evening, Alex Apati. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, both. You okay?
Yes, really, really well, thank you. And of course, what a game we have tonight. A game that will have ramifications at the bottom end of the table then with this London derby between Tottenham and Palace.
Yeah, really interesting one tonight. Tottenham are favourites, but their odds against. They're 13-10. Crystal Palace are 2-1, and the draw is 5-2. So pretty close all round in the betting. Tottenham's last win in the league came against Crystal Palace back in December. For context, West Brom, my team, are on their third proper manager since Spurs last won a game, by the way. Boing, boing. Both teams to score hasn't happened in any of the last 3 meetings between these two. So we might not be in for a thriller, but Tottenham are doing their bit. They've conceded at least 2 goals in their last 5 games. So both teams to score could be a pick there. I actually think this is, I don't know what you guys think, as important a game for Crystal Palace as it is for Tottenham tonight, because Palace at risk of being dragged into a relegation scrap, and a win tonight would put them 10 points and 5 places clear with 9 games left. And honestly, looking at both teams, I think I would lean more towards the Palace win tonight. I really would. Spurs being at home might help them a little, but Palace to win and both teams to score at 4-1 might be the bet for me there.
Well, I think Tottenham have the second worst home record in the Premier League this season, Alex.
Well,
but you may well be right there. You never know. Maybe tonight might be the night, in fact, where home comforts come through for them. So that's tonight's game. What about how the title odds have changed, perhaps after the results, in particular from yesterday with Arsenal's victory and City's draw?
Yeah, can look at both ends of the table, really. I mean, the top line is that Tottenham are now more likely to go down than Man City are to win the league. So, I mean, talk about double blows for Spurs fans. But yeah, top of the table, naturally, Arsenal pulled away. It's completely in their hands now. You don't want to go into the season looking like this, but they can afford to lose at the Etihad and still be above City, which is a great position to be in. They're 2-9 now to win the title. City back out to 7-2. And then at the bottom, yeah, I mean, it's interesting down there. Even, I mean, for Wolves, we've actually started taking bets on them to go down again. At one stage, we'd stopped altogether. We thought they were dead certs. They're still 1-100, to be fair, and they're 16-1 to stay up. Wolves and Burnley both 1-100. Then West Ham at 6-5 to go down, despite last night's win. Then Forest at just over 2-1, and Tottenham at 3-1. So Spurs 5th most likely for now, but on form alone, they're just comfortably the worst team in the league right now, aren't they?
Yes, very much so. And I know there's the Ladbrokes UK, you say that again, the Ladbrokes UK Open of Darts taking place this weekend. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Luke Littler won last year. He's his favourite, as always. Look, you'd be a fool to talk him down completely. He won this tournament last year, rightly favourite to win any tournament he's involved in. He's 5-2. Like, he's not exactly flown out the traps in the Premier League yet. He plays tonight, of course. Right now, he's 7th in the Premier League table overall. The UK Open, could throw some right spanners. Look, it's FA Cup weekend. It's also the FA Cup of darts. Anyone can be drawn against anyone in this competition, which is the great thing about it. Litter is coming into this at the 4th round, which means if you're going to beat him, you're going to have to take 10 legs off him, which is a big ask for anyone. Someone who might do that is Luke Humphries. Luke Humphries at 7-1 to win a tournament will always be of interest to me. Jan van Veen and Gerwyn Price are 12-1 each. And then bigger price to keep an eye on, Danny Nopper. Plenty thought he was unlucky not to make the Premier League lineup himself. He won this 4 years ago. He's 40-1 to go all the way this weekend. So if it's not one of the obvious candidates, then Danny Nopper at 40s is a great bet for me. And just because I've just seen him in the hotel, Rob Cross, I'll give him a mention. He's 66-1. Made the final a few years back here. Maybe this is his year at 66s.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a fun weekend. Enjoy it, Alex, and thank you very much. That was a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
It really is going to be an intriguing game tonight, isn't it, between Tottenham and Crystal Palace. I was asking you in the break, and I'll ask you just very quickly, the kind of messages that a manager should be putting out at this stage before the game with two teams that, in particular Tottenham more than Palace at this current moment, who are in the relegation picture. Is there any kind of messages you need to put out, or should the players already kind of know what's at stake, essentially?
Well, I think when you're a Premier League manager, you're very much sort of trying to work out the mood of the team, so I wouldn't have a set speech for tonight, but you'd look on the bus, you'd look at how people are arriving. Is there joviality in the room? Is it very serious? Is it quiet? And you would work off that, because what you got to remember is these players, their contracts are all determined by Premier League status. Right. So their incentive doesn't need to be much more. So it's about the pressure, really. Some deal with it really well and can be, and those types. But sometimes you might just get a player acting a bit weirdly out of context to the personality he is. And they're the players you've got to touch on. Make sure they're balanced, they're okay, they're not getting overhyped, for example. Right. Do you remember Gaza in the cup final, of course, where he damaged his leg? If you ever want to look at a player perhaps overhyped, it was Gaza that day, bless him. I love him to bits, but it's true. So I think the message would be clear. You'd want to put 3 or 4 key items in your speech, but I think it's about getting the mood right, making sure they're relaxed enough to play and got all their jobs covered and are going out there fully confident to win the game. I mean, Spurs at home have got 10 points this season. Like, they're the worst in the league. Only Burnley can match that. Yeah. So for Crystal Palace, I would perhaps lean on that if I was Crystal Palace manager. We got to make it really difficult for them to score, because this stadium could turn on them, for example. Absolutely. So, I think that's where they will be coming from. For Tottenham, I think it's just genuinely a sort of place where you're going to have to lift players in that dressing room and try and get them ready to play and ready to give their best, try and get some performances, because at the moment they're 6s and 7s rather than 8s and 9s. Yeah, very much so. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff in this game in North London, and we'll bring you regular updates as and when. That's all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.
Not a great evening for Villa at all. Here's one for you, Gab.
Hi, mate.
You're 17th in the form table. They've seen a 10-point gap with Chelsea chipped away to 3 points. They could be 6th after the next round of games, having fallen 16 points off leaders Arsenal. They've lost 4 home games in 2026, including the FA Cup. Now, Gab, I know, but I'll tell you this, mate, and I said at 6 o'clock, as disappointing as it is, mate, it can't be a great shock to you, because you kind of semi-predicted it to me maybe about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, first of all, what I want to say, Ali, is that these players, manager, fan base, cannot feel sorry for themselves.
Yeah.
Aston Villa are in the top 4 as it stands. They're in a knockout stage tie against Lille, which is next Thursday away from home. So it's not all doom and gloom. Has it been a horrendous 2026? Of course it has. But you know what it's like in football, Ali? You can't feel sorry for yourself.
Correct, mate.
If you're the leaders at that football club, if you're the Concerts, the Mings, the Watkins, you're getting these players together and saying, come on, guys, let's not let our season fizzle out. It's not been good enough. Last night, I mean, where do I start? The first goal, Martin, he's not even looked behind his shoulder. That gusto is there. Enter Fernandez has got time on the
It's
ball.
worth mentioning, Gabby, you got off to a brilliant start, mate.
Yeah. Fantastic goal, and that was more likely from Leon Bailey, taking his fullback on the outside and using his weaker foot to cross it. Goal. But Aston Villa's tactics were similar to when Unai Emery first come in.
Championship playoffs will include teams which finish 7th and 8th from next season. Simon Jordan has told talkSPORT why he believes that decision has been made.
It creates more broadcaster engagement. It's about money. This isn't about expanding the league and making it more opportunistic to get in the Premier League. This is about more games and being able to go to the broadcasters and go, look at this unique product here, this playoffs.
Well, the teams who finish 3rd and 4th will go straight to the semi-finals. The next 4 teams will play a one-legged quarter-final with the 5th and 6th place sides at home. Elsewhere, in the Premier League, we understand City are going after Elliot Anderson. They see him as a potential Rodri replacement. Forest value Anderson at £70 million. Now, after talkSPORT's Alan Pardew said an Arsenal title would need an asterisk next to it due to their playing style, David Moyes has sprung to the Gunners' defence.
I think Mikel's done a brilliant job. And I hear quite a lot of criticism of Arsenal, and I quite often, when you're in football and you actually know what happens and how it works, and you boys are in it, they are doing amazing to be leading the league.
At the other end of the table, Arsenal's North London rivals are just a point off the bottom 3. Neil Warnock's blaming what he calls a toxic dressing room.
Some of the Tottenham players, the ability they've got, and they use it when they want to use it, and I just think it's criminal, for the manager.
Spurs host Palace tonight.
This is Kick-Off. A very good evening to you. It's Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer. We're taking you through until the sports bar at 10, and we'll, of course, update you as it happens in the only Premier League game of the evening as Tottenham take on Crystal Palace. And we'll come to the relegation picture a little bit later on in our show as we're continuing to talk about the title race. And now it very much is advantage Arsenal, has to be said, now that they are 7 points clear of Manchester City. Although City do have a game in hand, we should say, over the league leaders. But it does mean that Arsenal can afford a couple of slip-ups, really, and still be a point clear. Bear in mind that they still have to play each other in the league at the Etihad. But talking about Manchester City, as we have already talked about Arsenal, they twice let their lead slip against Nottingham Forest at the Etihad yesterday and ended up drawing that game 2-2. Failing to see out the game is just going to be the headache, I'm sure, that Pep Guardiola will be wondering as a result of that. And with regards to Manchester City in this title race, a lot of us have been saying, well, they know how to get the job done. It's this kind of business end of the season that they always kind of come through.
This is a different team, isn't it?
Well, this is what I was going to come to. Does it also feel like it's just not going to work out for City because they're not quite performing at the levels that we might expect them to be doing too? Yeah, well, I have a slight feeling that this Manchester City team is going to click into gear. Okay, you still think?
Yeah, I do. And we've still got a lot of points to play for. So I wouldn't rule them out just yet. I think with the quality they got, sometimes you just get one of those great victories in the Champions League and it gives you such a boost. So I wouldn't dismiss them at the moment. When you look at the goal difference, I always look at the goal difference, and you know, and it's 37 goal difference plus, obviously, for Arsenal, and it's 32 for Manchester City. It's very, very close. And and you know, when you look at their wins, draws, and losses, not a great deal in it. I think the real problem you have when you're going for promotion or you're going to win a league is draws. Because you know you've got the power to win games. But the problem is, a bit like what happened to Manchester City last night, you get into a winning position and you're okay there, but then suddenly the nerves sit in, you start getting a little bit protective, you're not playing quite what you should be playing, and then you get caught and you end up drawing a game. And I think that's the worry I would have. And I actually thought last night that Arsenal were in that territory as well. I thought Brighton were going to get an equaliser, but they didn't manage to get one. So, but they definitely got nervy towards the end. So I think that's the worry I would have. And Manchester City now with the points total, I'm not so sure that pressure will be so much on them. They'll be just like, got to win, got to win. It's a different mentality to the Arsenal team at the moment, I think. So that gives them a slight kind of advantage, if you know what I mean.
What makes you think they're going to click into gear?
I just think they've got such quality in the group. It's just whether he gets the blend right on the starting 11. When you look down the squad, wow. I mean, really and truly, he's got a fantastic starting 11, and he could choose between sort of 18 players, and you wouldn't put much between all of them. But the Semenyo and Guehi definitely have made a difference to that team. And of course, they're not even bedded in yet, really. You know, they're still going to improve from where they are, I'm sure of that.
But would you not then argue Arsenal also have an incredible squad?
No, I think Arsenal definitely favourites. Yeah. No, of course. But the point saying, I think the psychology of both teams is slightly different. Manchester City now, because of the draw last night, now got to win, right, every game. And there's that. And Arsenal are protecting a lead. So, you know, when they go in front, I don't expect them to go behind often. But when they go in front, will they get nervous and will late goals, you know, and start costing them draws and bring Manchester City back into play? And, of course, we have the two massive games, the League Cup final and that game at the Etihad still to play.
Yeah, which is sort of a month apart, essentially. That League Cup final, is that going to be in any way a confidence booster to either team? If they can win, whoever wins that, do they look at that? Say,
I think it'd be significant.
Yeah,
yeah. I think it'd be significant in the dressing room and the staff, and you know,
the psychological.
Yeah, just the fact that you've done the job and got yourself a trophy early. So yeah, I mean, those two games, you can't wait for those, can you?
No. The League Cup final, March 22nd, and then that game at the Etihad is on April the 19th. You mentioned obviously a good European match potentially for Manchester City. A result, or they have to play Real Madrid in the knockout
what I'm saying.
stage. Yeah, I mean, if you can beat them over the two legs, again, that's huge.
Yeah, and they've got a good record against Real Madrid. You know, they seem to play them every year now. So, yeah, they know each other really, really well. But, you know, and you look at Real Madrid, and, you know, if I go back sort of 3-4 years, some of their really quality, even Manchester City at their best would struggle against Real Madrid. But I do think they're a bigger force at this time, even as, you know, as we know, they're not quite at their best. But maybe they're the type of games, you know, these last 10 games, you got to remember also, and I think people kind of don't really understand this, on a training ground, the mood when spring arrives is completely different to any other mood. Yeah. Yeah, because the tunnel part of the season, the cold, people don't want to come out and train. Everyone's bouncing out the room. They all want to do a bit extra. They're all keen to book their holidays and, well, when's the cup final? Will we make it? There's a real kind of, and that's across all the Premier League, no matter, even if you're a relegation fight, it's a different mood and a mindset. And if you're winning in that mindset, of course, then it just rolls on.
Yeah.
That's that momentum thing. So you can imagine the Arsenal training ground example, for example, today, I can imagine it was buzzing, you know, like, and that's, and Manchester City was not so buzzy, even though it was a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day, wasn't it? Yeah. I'm sure this stat is a little bit worrying for Manchester City fans and those involved at City, that they've dropped 13 points from winning positions this season. I mean, that's quite alarming. You wouldn't expect that amount of points for them to have dropped.
Yeah, I mean, they still, with 59 goals, even that for them is not great. They usually get more goals than that, but 27 against is, and I think that's when Rodri was trying to find him, he's getting better every game. You can see that. But when he first came in the team and with a young back four, he had a few injuries. They were really vulnerable. I don't think they're as vulnerable now. Rodri's got a few more games. Gay's in that back four. I think they look a little bit more well set. So I don't think that that margin will increase too much.
Phil Foden started the game last night. Failed to make an impact. He's now gone 17 games, I think it is, without scoring. Could be 13. I'll have to double check that stat. But in terms of that for Phil Foden, is there obviously this season hasn't panned out in any way, shape or form that he would like it to be. But when you've got a World Cup approaching, how big a concern is that?
Yeah, it's a big concern for him and his family, and his people around him, his agent, etc., etc. If you're part of the Foden team, then it's a concern because, and you got to remember as Premier League managers, you come under a lot of pressure from agents and associates of players for their players to play.
Yeah.
And why aren't he getting a game? What can we do as a team? What can we do? Do we need to improve his conditioning, his nutrition? They're looking for answers. And I'm guessing that's where Foden is a little bit at the moment, trying to find a solution, because you want to play. And if he needs to play, when you look at the wealth of riches that Thomas Tuchel has offensively, Foden wants to be on a plane. At least he wants to get there. That would be the priority at the moment for him. Outside of obviously winning trophies for his club.
Yeah, it is 17 games without scoring. I think you've got to go back to mid-December for the last time.
He had a little spell, didn't he, at the start where we all thought he was back to his best, and unfortunately it hasn't continued for him.
No, it's dropped off a little bit. And then I suppose a lot of people are wondering about the future of Pep Guardiola as well. Could this be his last season? You think if it's going to be his last season, he wants to end it on a high note, but they're still in all competitions, obviously. But do you think this could be his last season?
I don't know. It's strange messages, about Pep. Not so much from him personally, but around him. There's been a bit of noise, and it might be his last year, etc. I don't know where that noise is all coming from. When I see him in press conferences, he looks exactly the same. After games, he's not like he's kind of all over it, or I need a break. He's very much doing what he's always done, talking to opposition players, coaching his own players at the end of games. He's never going to lose that enthusiasm. I don't see it personally. I think he'll still be there, and with the signings that he's got, I think he can be re-energized. Actually, when you bring in players and they hit the ground running like Gay, and it does energize you as a manager. You're like, wow, okay, now we can do this. We can, we can change into something else.
I mean, yeah. How would you feel if we had a Premier League without Pep Guardiola? Would that be a loss?
Of course, yeah. He's brought such a great. I mean, and you look at the top two managers. Arteta is obviously a disciple of Pep, so he's had a massive influence on the league, and without all the trophies that he's won, so it'd be a massive loss. But I don't think we will lose him. I don't, and I'm fairly confident Manchester City fans don't either.
You do get that impression. I mean, like you say, there's a lot of outward noise about him leaving, and yet he's kind of stayed very silent on it. And there's just something. You're right. He does seem to sometimes something happens, and he just looks like he's re-energized, and that he, if it doesn't go to plan this season, you sort of think, will he go? No, I can't leave on this note. I've got to win something. I've got to win a big trophy once more to kind of end my reign.
Yeah.
But that is obviously for us to.
I mean, that when the Champions League, you used to look at that and think the best team in England probably have got an even chance, maybe even a 2-1 against chance of winning it. But now you could look at the Premier League and say they could all win it, couldn't they? It's not like you wouldn't be against. Well,
I just thought
it's not upset another part of North London. I'm already in trouble with one off. So, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible, really. So Liverpool, even though their season last night, of course, they get, another disappointment one, and they could still win the Champions League. In fact, I fancy them in the Champions League.
Well, hang on. You can't just throw that out there.
I throwed
Why?
it on Sunday.
Where-
I just think their top players are going to get into gear in the Champions League.
But I don't know what's given you that thought, because they're not showing it week in, week out.
Yeah, but the Champions League is not a league basis anymore. It's a knockout competition. And I think it will stimulate them. I think it's the one real one. If you'd won the Premier League last year, what could top it? Maybe winning the Champions League.
Oh, my goodness.
So I think.
Do you think then you're going to see kind of Ange Postecoglou Tottenham, where it's all focused on that, on the Champions League for Liverpool?
Well, that's my point.
Look at you just throwing them out there.
Let's see.
That's what you do. Get everyone talking. Right, look, there's plenty more for us to discuss after an eventful week of Premier League action. We will, of course, focus on the relegation picture as well, which could change after tonight's game in North London as Tottenham take on Crystal Palace. We've got it on the big screen. We're right across it. We can't wait to have that on and just keep an eye on what is going on there. But we will focus on that game as well in just a few minutes here on Kickoff.
Fabrizio Romano is the man in question here. But the question that goes from many people at this particular time regarding Fabrizio is there a fine line between being a top journalist and being an influencer? Or can you be both? What's Romano done? He's been criticised after he posted a video on Twitter to his 27 million followers, which essentially in the eyes of many was an advert for Saudi Arabia and their humanitarian aid. Now, the video itself is about a couple of minutes long, but we've cut it down. This is Fabrizio.
King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. Over 10 years since its inception, the center has implemented 4,212 projects in 113 countries worldwide, reflecting the leading humanitarian role of Saudi Arabia. 155 cases evaluated, patients from 28 countries across 5 continents. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ranked second globally and first in the Arab world in humanitarian aid for 2025 and topped the list of the largest donors according to the United Nations Financial Tracking Service, FTS.
So for 2 minutes, Fabrizio tells us and lauds and applauds the work that is done by the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Centre. But some other journalists have laid into Fabrizio for the post, some suggesting now that he helps unsettle the transfer market by putting up paid posts from agents and others.
Good evening. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT, and it is Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10 o'clock this evening. We've already talked about the title race with regards to Arsenal and Manchester City. I mean, and Alan just threw in the curveball about how Liverpool are going to win the Champions League, which is
not a curveball. We're saying it on a Sunday on a regular basis.
Okay, well, I can't listen to you every single day.
Well, you
I
need
try.
to tune in to Imagine Pards on a Sunday night. It's a good show.
It is a good show. When I've had to deputise,
you've done it, of course.
It's always good fun. But I haven't heard you say.
You're on a hat trick. I think you've done 3. Have you done 3?
I think that's right. Yeah. I didn't get a hat trick ball though, did I?
No. We'll give you something.
Oh, honestly, you don't have
glass of champagne.
After what I said in the break.
Yeah.
Yes. Glass of champagne, darling. Right, let's move on from that very quickly. We'll talk about the relegation picture a little bit later on in the show, but right now let's look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
So we've had a very eventful week already in the Premier League, but the round of footballing action isn't over just yet because there's one more game to come, and that is tonight as Tottenham take on Crystal Palace, a game that certainly could play a part in the relegation fight. But let's talk about this game in general then with you, Alan, and in particular talk about Tottenham, who obviously are onto their second manager of this season with Igor Tudor, yet to win, having only obviously managed 2 games. But, I mean, tell me how Tottenham are in this predicament of being just a point clear of the bottom 3 and yet to have won a Premier League game in 2026. What would you say has been the biggest issue for Tottenham?
Well, that's difficult to put my finger on, to be honest, sitting from where I'm sitting when, you need to be inside that dressing room to sense exactly what's going on. I mean, I thought at the start of the year, Kudos, before he got injured, Solanke was playing. They looked okay offensively. But of course, they've both suffered injuries, and Solanke, unfortunately, has not really had much game time at all. So, and Maddison, etc., etc. So they're missing some key players. But that's no excuse really to not only get 7 results across the line all season for a club of that size and magnitude. I think the good news, I think, is if they can get out of this relegation situation, which you'd like to think they can. There's going to have to be a reset there. A reset, maybe a new manager coming in. Mm-hmm. I don't think it'd be Tudor. Mm-hmm. And, a real kind of because when you look at their spend, they have spent a lot of money. And you look at Manchester City and Liverpool, they're in that level, but actually their net spend is really high because they haven't bought well. They haven't been able to trade up. It's like, like Man City have bought players and then sold them on for 40 millions, 45 millions or whatever, moved into Real Madrid, Barcelona, or wherever they've gone, PSG or whatever. So Spurs have bought and they've not improved enough, those players, to be a success for the club or a financial success. You look at the Chelsea model, there's a lot of, all the Chelsea young players that have been sold. So the net spend is lower at Chelsea, even though they've spent so much more money.
Yeah.
So I think it's not so much spend more money. I think it's a real focus on what we're spending it on. That is a big, big issue. When you look at the playing side, I worry what style they are trying to go for under Tudor at the moment. I haven't really seen a style where I think they're going to they're going to go for a high press. Like Brighton last night were quite brave. They went on a real high press at the start of the game and then backed off. So there's little tactics like that where you might start the half like that and then retreat a little bit later when the game settles down. So little tactical points like that they haven't got right. Hence why they're getting their results are poor. I think the general feeling at the training ground must be one of disappointment, and I think individual players can carry that.
Yeah,
the burden of that. It's disappointing out, but we get out of it.
But it's that kind of attitude that might not get you out of it.
That's my point.
Yeah,
that's where I think they are. It's like it's been rubbish. We ain't been great, and okay, I could have done better myself, perhaps, but we'll be all right.
It's like we'll get it right the next game, and then we'll get it right the next game.
And now now this is a crux game tonight because this Crystal Palace team have got really kind of indifferent results after an unbelievable smell under Glasner. And this team has obviously been weakened by the sow of Gahey and Eze in particular, but they've still got quality. So, and obviously they've bought Johnson off Spurs, who could be ironic if he gets a goal tonight.
Yeah, on the bench, starting on the bench for this one.
And Larson, of course, from Wolves, the biggest signing for Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace trying to sort of address things a little bit, and I think they got a great chance in the Conference Cup. So their season's still alive. They need to get this result tonight to a bit of breathing space.
Well, let's bring in Ian Abrahams, who's going to be across this game for us. And I just wondered, Moose, are you getting a sense of the atmosphere? Is there nerves, apprehension?
Good evening. There's a lot of nerves and apprehension, but I'll tell you what, there's even more of at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium tonight. Empty seats. There are literally thousands. We are 5 minutes before kickoff. Now, a lot of people stay in the concourse and finish their drink and maybe go to the toilet before a game. But there are, and they were struggling to sell out this game, I understand, Spurs. But in all around the ground, in the great big area away to my right-hand side, the so-called singing section, based on the yellow wall at Dortmund, absolutely so many empty seats and empty spaces. Opposite me, around to my left-hand side, just past the Palace fans, and then I obviously can't see much of this stand below me, but above me there's lots of empty seats. And unless they fill up quickly, because the players are in the tunnel, unless they fill up quickly, one or two things are going to happen. They're going to miss the game, or they're not coming to the game. And the one thing that the Spurs PA guy said just now was, this club's been here for 182 years, whatever it was. The one constant is you, the fans. Well, they're not here tonight, not in enough numbers, I don't think, and certainly not filling out this stadium.
Moose, it's Pards. What do you sense? What do you sense about the game today? Do you obviously you're in and around that dressing room area. What do you sense it's going to be a night for Spurs or not?
It has to be a night for Spurs, Alan, because my honest feeling is that everybody else towards the bottom either has been or is showing signs of really wanting to stay in this league through their performances. I had West Ham as being down and out, especially after they were tamely beaten at Wolves at Christmas. But I don't know what Nuno's done, but he's turned them into a team that won 4 of the last 8, and they were unlucky not to get something at Chelsea, and now you're back on them getting more points this season. You look at a team like Forest, who will always battle. They've got quality in Gibbs White and Elliot Anderson, who scored last night, and that result last night was showing that. I think Leeds and Daniel Farke have got fight in them. Spurs, they have the worst record of any Premier League team this calendar year. I think the stat after Wolves' win over Liverpool was that Wolves have won more games at home in this week than Spurs have won this season. It's desperate for them. They stand to lose enormous amounts of money, over £250 million. They charged the 5th highest for season tickets in the whole of Europe to come here and see Spurs. And this isn't even a one-thing wonder, Alan, and you'll probably know this better than me, but it carries on from last season. Okay, the trophy last season, it covered over a myriad of problems, but once this starts becoming a yearly thing, how do you get out of it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ian. And listen, we'll be back to you for more updates as and when this one kicks off. The interesting thing, and I heard Gabby Agbonlahor say this morning, Macclesfield have beaten more Premier League teams in 2026 than Tottenham. That is quite a worry. That is all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
OK, in just a few minutes, we will focus very much on the relegation fight. Who will be going down? We'll be bringing you a Nottingham Forest perspective in just a few moments.
boys. David, good morning, mate. First
Good
of all,
morning,
how are
David.
you?
Morning all.
David, here's a quick one for you, mate. I know we'll not be talking European football. We'll calm everything down. I want to start with this statistic, right, which I would imagine would please you as much as anything. Everton, after reaching the 40-point mark in 28 games, that's only the second time they've done that in 9 seasons. Now, I reckon that in itself is an achievement. But, and I know you'll play it down, you must have a wee thought about European football.
Well, I said right at the start, Coisty, that I said to the players that, we need to try and aim for it and hope that it was possible. In truth, it looked a million miles away, to be honest, at the start. But I have to say, we got off to a pretty good start in the league, and it's given us something to hold on to. We've been up and down, and we're probably just on the outside of European football, if we're honest. But we're not that far away that we couldn't try and make a go of it.
David, obviously the Grealish injury was disappointing, but how happy are you now with the competition for places? Beto and Barry are in great form. You've got McNeil and Dibbling fighting for a spot. NDI and Tyreek George. You've got Branthwaite back as well. The squad's looking more healthy now, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, I have to say, Jack was brilliant for us in the early part of the season. He gave us lots of things which we haven't had, and he helped the team greatly. So we've missed him, and we missed him over the middle of the season, middle of December and January, really, when we had also a few injuries as well. But probably no different to other clubs. But we're just beginning to find our feet a little bit again, and the players you mentioned, they're all beginning to step up.
Over the years, we've been treated to some amazing exhibition events in sports. Some become iconic, but many fail to live up to the hype. So what are some of the most anticlimactic exhibitions? Technically, it wasn't an exhibition because it ended up being sanctioned as a pro fight, but it basically was. 2024 saw Mike Tyson return to the ring to fight YouTuber Jake Paul. The event, which Paul won, was streamed by 65 million people on Netflix, making it the most streamed sporting event ever at the time. But many complained of buffering and freezing. And as for the fight itself, well, it was considered an entertaining disaster. I mean, it wasn't prime Tyson. He was 58. And after the fight, Paul, who was 27 at the time, said he'd actually gone easy on Tyson towards the end. Now, Mayweather-McGregor in 2017 was a better watch, despite Mayweather going rope-a-dope early on, but it was way too expensive. Pay-per-view was 75 quid, and in the stadium, the cheapest ticket was over 370. Now, this next one you could have watched for free, only because the pay-per-view had streaming issues, so they had to open it out. I'm talking about Tiger versus Phil in 2018, which was nicknamed The Match. Massive names and massive rivals going head-to-head. On paper, it worked. In reality, it didn't. The two players were mic'd up, so we all thought we'll get fascinating insight. We'll be able to hear them insult each other for 18 holes. But what we actually got was more heavy breathing and sniffles. And for two GOATs, the golf itself was bang average. And speaking of GOATs, let's end with Messi and Ronaldo. In 2023, an exhibition between PSG and the Riyadh All-Star 11 saw them share a pitch for possibly the final time. To be fair, it was a goal fest, which PSG won 5-4, and Messi and Ronaldo both scored. But it was obvious they were past their prime. El Clasico this
Good evening, welcome along. This is Kickoff. Thank you very much for choosing to join us this Thursday evening. It is Alan Pardew who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, and we are very much keeping you across what's happening between Tottenham and Crystal Palace, which of course could have a massive say in this fight for survival. Now, before we bring in Max Scott, who has remained with us to bring us a Nottingham Forest perspective, there was a really early chance, wasn't there, for Palace to take the lead?
Yeah, a long throw, obviously, set play. One of my things at the moment. Went in the box and it sort of bubbled around a little bit, but then it come to Walton, who got a good dig on it, and Vicario had to make a bright save, which would have unsettled the baying public at the moment.
Yes, it was very early on in the game, but it remains goalless, and we're into the 5th minute of it now. Well,
one thing I would say was that the Moose was right about the seats. Just looking at the pictures, I mean, it's incredible. There is gaps everywhere, so they haven't really come down from the concourse and the drinking areas.
Yeah, well, maybe some are just thinking it's better to stay there for the time being. We'll see. Anyway, it's very early on, 5 minutes in, and it's goalless. As I say, Max Scott is with us to talk all things Nottingham Forest, but also broader with the relegation picture as well. Before we get to that, though, some interesting developments with regards to the future of Edu, who hasn't really been at the club for very long.
No, Edu, who's the global head of football operations as a part of Marinakis' multi-club ownership situation, he has been at the club for 8 months. He had been given an incredible amount of money by Evangelos Marinakis and essentially was tasked with assembling a squad that would be capable of playing European football and Premier League football. And by all accounts, if you speak to football fans, but I think anybody, certainly in the media or works within football, would say that he's failed in that task. When you look at the players that have come in and haven't had an impact, whether that's Alexander Zinchenko, whether that's Danny Doy, Dylan Bakwa, James McAtee, who I think will turn out to be a fantastic player. No doubt he's got great pedigree, but it hasn't worked. I mean, the list is endless, the money that's been spent on these players. So look, the reports coming out from the Telegraph today, John Percy in the Telegraph, is that, Edu is sort of slowly essentially exiting the club, that he's been asked to stay away. What I can say is that Edu still does very much remain an employee at the club. There's no gardening leave. He is still working at the club. Whether or not he attends games or not, I would suggest that what this is sort of a manifestation of, I think, a frustration at the lack of impact that he has had. And I think there is a feeling from many that this is a man that is a lot of style over substance and has been rather aloof, particularly in recent weeks in his responsibilities at Nottingham Forest. And so I would expect this very short relationship between Nottingham Forest and Edu to be gone. And for what it's worth, I think that this is a part of a wider issue we see in football, these shadowy figures, sporting directors that have a lot of influence but very little accountability. And he's just another one off the line.
I mean, Alan, you know what it's like to work with a sporting director of sorts.
I've been a sporting director.
Yeah, of course you have as well. But
what's a job at Forest?
Well, let me go one thing. What I think where the media, for me, have to step up a little bit. When you talk about accountability with technical directors, I think the media should have access to them. In the next TV contract, for example.
Oh, I see. Right.
We should have some kind. You should have kind of interviews with them and give some access to what is the philosophy of you going forward. What are you doing? What and that might help them actually to sort of get over some sort of message about what they are actually achieving. At the minute, they're ghostly figures behind the scenes.
I would say there are some that might be open to it, that maybe they're not asked to do it as much as we might think. I mean, we had the technical director of Brentford not so long ago on this show coming in. Now, obviously, he reports to the director of football, but it was still somebody that we could ask questions of for an hour. It was quite insightful, I would say, that being Brentford.
Of course you would.
But what I was going to ask you, though, obviously, I hear where you're coming from about the signings not working, and some of them have. Like Jesus has been.
He's been fantastic in cup competitions, Natalie,
Okay,
and I've backed him. But in the Premier League, he's scored twice. But I would say that he has. Yes, his work rate's been phenomenal. He's tried incredibly hard, but ultimately, he's not delivered in the Premier League.
Oh, yeah, okay. But obviously, what my point was going to be more that you buy the players and then hope the manager gets the best out of them. Now, clearly, the managers have not been able to get the best out of some of these.
Absolutely.
But I guess the bigger call for Edu is the managerial appointments that he has made. The fallout with Nuno, which led to him leaving quite early on in this season. Then the appointment of Ange Postecoglou, which we don't really want to talk about because it was a disaster. Then Sean Dyche comes in, he gets sacked, and now you're on to Vitor Pereira. I can see why that is a bigger issue, the fact that you've not been able to nail down a manager.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a wider uncertainty at the club this season. And what Nuno did bring and what you're seeing at West Ham this season, much to Forest fans' dismay, is a togetherness and a culture. And I think Nuno was really strong on that. And the arrival of Edu has done nothing but disrupt everything at the football club. And I think it will be looked back, regardless of how this season goes, as a season of some really poor decisions, particularly by Edu, who, as I say, seems to me someone that's very much style over substance. I mean, you look at his departure from Arsenal, which seems to me to have been very much wanted by the top brass and Mikel Arteta. And you look at what Andrea Berta's done since he's come at the club. He's taken them to the next level, something which Edu wasn't quite able to do and clearly hasn't been able to do at Nottingham Forest this season. And so I know full well that there are a lot of Forest fans that will be happy if he does leave. As I say, he's still working at the club, whether he's attending games or not. We'll be happy to see him leave. But to matters on the pitch, Natalie, can we talk about Morgan Gibbs-White and the Geordie Maradona Elliot Anderson for me demonstrating what Spurs haven't shown in recent months? And of course this could change tonight, I don't want to be premature, but particularly Morgan Gibbs-White demonstrated a fight and a psychological fortitude and embodied, I said this yesterday, a desperation to do something. He was feeding off scraps against Manchester City, scored a world-class goal, and I think lifted the club out of it
certainly lifted you. Else. I can tell it. I can tell in your voice.
It has the sun's out. I mean, I'm feeling a lot better about the prospects.
It was a fantastic opportunist goal, back heel.
Indeed.
You know, very, very good. And Anderson, who probably been a bit quieter in the recent games. I mean, obviously last night was an outstanding goal, and he's been terrific at the start of the season. They're key players in the running. They really are. I just want to go back to Edu and Marinakis, the owner, Mr. Marinakis, because this is an experienced owner. This isn't a novice owner. You know, obviously, I don't know how many years he's been at Olympiacos, but a lot of years, a lot of European football. He knows agents in the European market probably as well as any technical director, I would assume. So I would just be slightly wary of putting all that on Edu. Whether, you know...
Oh, it goes without saying that mistakes have been made from Evangelos Marinakis this entire season.
From the group. You know, from that period, that scouting group have not made the right decisions, and of course, one window in the Premier League can be so costly. And Spurs have had 2 or 3 windows. I wouldn't perhaps include the last one, but 2 or 3 before that, where they were really unsuccessful windows. And Nottingham Forest, this next window, if you survive, is going to be
absolutely massive,
massively important.
And you look at the likes of Elliot Anderson, Murillo. Who I know has had historic interest from clubs in the Premier League, whether that's Chelsea, whether that's clubs in Europe, historic interest in these sorts of players. And if Forest stay up, you can get an absolute premium price for those sorts of players, Elliot Anderson particularly. talkSPORT understands today that Manchester City want to buy him. Forest are willing to take no less than 70 million. But if they're in the Championship, Natalie, well, you might as well cut that in half and then in half again. And so I do think the club really are facing existential crisis potentially. You look at what's happened to Luton, you look at what's happened to Leicester, very close to home to Nottingham Forest. Premier League survival is so much more important than any
Do you know what the financial situation would be if you were to be relegated?
I don't think we're certainly not in as bad a situation as Leicester City. The club, since that 4-point deduction, have marshalled their finances very well and stewarded them as you would expect of a football club. And so but ultimately, when you've got a squad full of such talent, which whilst they're not performing on the pitch this season, on paper they do, you're not going to be able to reap the rewards of that investment as much as if you go into the championship.
Can I just say one thing on that, or add to that? Tottenham had 2 managers. Nottingham Forest had 4 managers. West Ham had 2 managers. Now, the reason that you've got 8 managers between 3 clubs there is because the financial model does not work in the Championship. The Premier League financial model of these football clubs, particularly these 3, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur and West Ham, do not work in the Championship. It is going to be a car crash, and a bit like what you're saying about Leicester. And I don't think Nottingham Forest will be immune from that either. So because of, as you're quite rightly saying, the net cost of your players will go down considerably. So that's why these managerial changes. That's why there's so much pressure on technical directors who might be moving out the door. And players who are like, wow, under so much pressure to play. So everybody is not immune from that. And that's why I'm watching Spurs here. They've got a corner. This is the first time they've attacked it, and it's the 14th minute.
Yes. Quickly, let's bring an update from the Moose then, who's at the Tottenham Crystal Palace game.
14 gone, Spurs 0, Palace 0. Been a very lacklustre start by Spurs, who might be able to get going now. Tell with a shot, scrambled away just by Henderson, who grabbed it in the second attempt. First chance was to Palace, so Wharton inside 50 seconds, a shot which was rather straight at Vicario. Either side of him might have given them a problem. The Spurs do have a problem at left back. Sousa, the 19-year-old Brazilian, has already been booked for a foul on Muniz, which saw him being replaced by Nathaniel Klein. He's got to play 80 minutes now on a yellow card, which might be problematic for him. The stadium, as Alan said earlier, is not full tonight. It's Tottenham 0, Palace 0.
Ian, thank you very much. Regular updates throughout. Just quickly getting back onto the relegation situation then. It sounds as though you're a little bit more optimistic.
Look, getting a point at the Etihad, you have to be left with some sort of optimism. But what I would say is that I think West Ham look the least likely to go down out of Forest, Spurs and West Ham. I just look at the performance against Fenerbahce in the first leg, the full 90 minutes bar that last couple of minutes against Liverpool, and then that dogged, determined, committed, desperate performance at the Etihad in a positive way. It does give you some hope. However, there needs to be some sort of consistency. You can't have an upturn in form for one game. You've got to try and string those together. And that game at the City Ground on the 14th or 15th of March, that weekend, I'm going back home for it, against Fulham, is going to be absolutely monumental. What I would say, Natalie, I've been saying it all season, and I just think with players like Gibbs-White, Elliot Anderson, Hudson-Odoi, Murillo, Milenkovic, Olaran and Nico Williams, these players that took the club to Europe and defied odds last season, I do think they're too good to go down. Or, well, they're not, because anyone can go down, but they should be, Natalie. So, of course, there is still that hope that something can change.
Yeah, OK. Well, you've also got your Europa League last 16 clash against Midtjylland.
Feels like a distraction, though.
Well, it could be. You're absolutely right. And you've lost to them already in the league phase, didn't you?
Handed it to us.
I think one of the pivotal games will be March 22nd when you head to Tottenham.
Oh, don't.
I can't help it. I've got to say it.
I know.
Can I just say, you know when you said about too good to go down? Just want to remind you of.
I did correct myself.
Oh,
It feels like the players in there, Pards, should be good enough to keep the club out. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Who are you going to remind him of?
Well, when West Ham went down, they went down with David James, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, to name but three.
Yeah. No, I don't think we're immune. I don't think we were immune whatsoever.
He was optimistic. Now he's going to be leaving.
Now you're dragging me down.
With real pessimism.
In fact, your enthusiasm I've enjoyed. It was almost like being back in the changing room there.
Oh, good.
I was just about to send you out to play central midfield.
See, Marinakis needs you to get into that dressing room, clearly.
Call me up, Mr. Marinakis.
Max, thank you very much. You're tuning in to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
Let's go to Lauren, who's Arsenal fan. All right, Lauren?
Oh, hi, Jamie. Sorry, it's actually Laura, the Arsenal fan.
All right, Laura.
Hi, how are you, boys?
Yeah, we're good. How are you? You feeling good?
Up the Chelsea.
Oh, I'm feeling great. I've just come fresh off the back of presenting the Arsenal game on TNT and just, to be honest, really enjoyed it, Jay.
Oh, it's Woodsy.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Jamie!
Woodsy, you've done it.
What's happening?
Woodsy, why is it taking you so long to phone us up?
Do you know what? I've been revelling in a brilliant season and I've just been enjoying myself.
You know what? It's bad if Woodsy's phoning us up. It's bad.
About you,
Hold on.
boys.
Where have you been when you've been bottling it, Woodsy? What's happened? All of a sudden you go 7 points clear and you phone us.
Jamie, I had to scroll down my phone. It took about 5 minutes to find you on the table.
Oh, Woodsy, this is a
scrolling.
Spurs ain't even played and it's the worst night for us ever. I'm like, what is going on?
I don't even want to answer questions. I just want to ask you how you're feeling.
Woodsy, take the floor.
Woodsy.
I'll sit back and enjoy it. All right, take the
Woodsy,
floor.
I feel sick. I feel sick as a dog right now. Honestly.
How awful is it? How bad on a scale of like 1 to Spurs is it right now?
I can't believe I'm getting stick off Woodsy.
Woodsy, can I ask you
up talkSPORT?
Woodsy, can I ask you a question? Woodsy, do you want Spurs to get relegated?
If I had a choice of which one, is that what you're asking me?
Woodsy, answer whatever way you want, right? Do you want Spurs to get
No.
relegated?
No, I absolutely don't want Spurs to get relegated because I want to enjoy more North London derby pummeling for years to come. For years to come.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us here on Kickoff. Alan Pardew is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. Let's take you straight back to the only Premier League game of this evening. It's Tottenham against Crystal Palace. Ian Abrahams is watching it.
20 minutes gone. Spurs 0, Palace 0. Spurs, remember, just 1 point outside the relegation zone, and they need something tonight. They really need a win tonight, to be honest with you. Home fans are head in their hands a couple of times, but to be perfectly honest with you, Spurs haven't really offered them much in terms of encouragement. One shot from Tell. We had a booking for Sousa. Colomani and Porro could also have been booked on a different night. Palace have also seen the yellow card for Strand Larsen just now. It's still Spurs 0, Palace 0. Can I just ask Alan a quick question?
By all means.
Alan, to me, watching live, Spurs look completely devoid of confidence. Can't string 3 or 4 passes together. How do you solve that as a coach?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I just think, when I've been watching this game, I can't believe you're at home. It's a game you've got to win, and they're just they just retreat and let Palace have the ball. I mean, that first 13 minutes is a time to set the tone, and they didn't do that. And you're right, in terms of confidence, I think as a coach, that's what I would have done. In terms of instilling confidence in them, I would have said, get on the front foot, let's get after them and talk about out of possession, about winning it back high, getting after them and protecting ourselves in doing that. And then from there, hopefully, you get a bit of confidence and you can string 3 or 4 passes together, which, as you say, they're struggling to do.
Brilliant. It's 0-0 at the moment. We've played 21 minutes.
Ian, thank you very much. Okay, I mean, we've got the game on here in our studio, and we've been watching the fans' reactions, and they're all either apathetic to the whole situation, and a lot of them resigned even already. I mean, we've heard some Tottenham fans who are resigned to the relegation idea, or they've got their head in their hands, and kind of the woe is me, woeful performance that they're witnessing already.
Yeah, it's difficult, to get the stadium in a positive. I remember when I went to West Brom and we didn't start well in a period where I'd just gone in as manager, and the crowd, I could just tell, were like expecting it to be rubbish. It was almost like an expectation from them, and that spreads down a little bit into the team, unfortunately. And that's what you got to overcome. And when you get a big result like West Ham have done, it can turn very, very quickly. 2 or 3 results and they're back on your side. And they can't wait for the next game.
Yes.
I used to speak to West Ham fans. They can't wait for the next game. Like 4 or 5 weeks ago, they didn't want a game.
It's true, though. And actually, I talk about apathy, and that is exactly what happened when I was at the West Ham Forest game, which they lost 2-1. And it felt exactly similar to maybe what's happening here in North London. That atmosphere was dead. Yeah. And it did feel as though at that point the fans had given up. Yeah. They felt they were resigned to it.
No, you can win them back. I always used to say to players, don't never give in, never give in. The fans will always they want to be with you. They want to be with you, really. But you've got to give them something. You've
so hard,
got to give them something.
It's like a vicious circle, because you want the fans to be up for it, but then the fans need the players to show something. And yet, if the players aren't showing it, the fans can't get up for it. And it's just that vicious circle.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to make with the Moose there, that, just being on the front foot, making an early tackle, putting it in behind them, don't let them play out easy. You know, all those sort of things can help you get some tempo in the game. I mean, we're already, you know, the pan of the director of the footage is going to the subs already. That's the stage we're at. There's only 24 minutes gone.
Well, I think it helped that Brennan Johnson was out warming up. So there's a story perhaps to be written by him in this game, certainly. But
and you know what's really bizarre, isn't it? Because he was Crystal Palace's most expensive player ever before Larsson. He's on the bench.
Yeah.
And then Tottenham went big in the window for Conor Gallagher. He's on the bench.
Yeah.
And there's like £80 million worth of players, and in just those two players, one
you
of
know
each
what
side.
that is? They're the finishers.
Yeah.
Do you like that term?
Well, I love that term because I'm a big rugby union.
Oh, well, there
fan,
you go.
So I'm all into finishers. Yeah, I've actually used it myself, but anyway.
Well, isn't that what most managers have to do? You have to have players that you know can come on and make a
But
difference.
you know, football players don't really buy into that finishers tag.
Do they not?
No,
Okay.
no. Well, Gaffer, you should have started me. It's quite simple.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I come on and got the winner for you, but if you'd have started me, I'd have got two. You know that. Okay.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
I get that, yeah. 0-0 as we are into the 26th minute now. I suppose, really, the only big concern was the fact that Munoz had to go off and was replaced.
It's a blow for Palace.
Yeah. Very much so. That was in the 14th minute, so an early substitution was made for Palace. But, yeah, as of yet, no goals and very few chances in this game so far as well. Let's look at the race, shall we, for the Champions League, which is really fascinating when you consider we think there could be 5 Premier League teams, certainly from the Premier League table, qualifying. It could become 6 if one of them was to win the Champions League as well. As it is, if we're looking at the 5, it's Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, Aston Villa and Chelsea. Liverpool are just outside that on the same number of points as Chelsea, but the goal difference is quite significant in Chelsea's favour. If you look at a team like Aston Villa, for example, they do seem to be on a bit of a slide. Are you concerned that they might be a team that drops out?
Well, they've got a perfect manager to kind of turn it around because he's been there, done it, you know, got the T-shirt and everything, and the cups, by the way, and particularly in Europe. So, no, I don't concern me. I mean, obviously that game last night was alarm bells ringing. I would have thought on the training ground this morning.
Yeah, the 4-1 defeat at home to Chelsea.
But they will be addressed, and I'm not sure they can finish in the top 4 now because of the quality of the teams chasing them. But I still think that they got a great opportunity to have success in Europe this year and perhaps win that trophy. And also, I don't see him slipping beyond 7th. So, yeah, I think European football is there for them. It's just a question of just addressing that game from last night. Sometimes you get one of them.
Yeah.
You get like a game that just, you know, the opposition go up the other end and score. Then they go up the opposite, you know, the next time they go up there, they score again. And it's a little bit like, oh, my goodness, you know.
Yeah.
You just walk away from it.
It is only 1 win in 7 in the Premier League.
Yeah, they're on a little bit of a tricky run. Yeah, so it isn't just last night.
No, and the other issue, of course, is if you go back to the start of this season, they had quite a slow start. And a lot of speculation on that was based on the fact that they were disappointed in missing out on the Champions League last season. They wouldn't want to go through that again going to next season.
No, but, you know, they're overachieving actually to be there. So, you know, you could look at it that line. I mean, Dean Ashton was at the game last night, and obviously, Dino, I'm a big fan of Dino. I think he was a brilliant footballer for me, but he's got a smart brain, and he just said Chelsea were on a different level last night. You know, forget the scoreline; they were just like confidence levels and everything was way above. So that would ring alarm bells to me. But as I say, they couldn't have a better manager to address it and do the, you know, what I was talking to you earlier about doing the right things at the training ground.
Yeah.
To just change the mood a little bit. So he'll be on those tricks.
So, I mean, as you say, it could be Aston Villa that drops out. Chelsea have that great result, as you just mentioned, against Aston Villa. Liverpool. What on earth is going on at Liverpool?
Well, I mean, you know, we got people who watch them every week and they're still bemused. And I'm talking about ex-managers and players who've played for the football club. Can't can't quite work out why it's, gone so desperately wrong. I think that's offside.
Oh, well, the ball has gone into the back of the net. Let's see what's happened, because it could be offside, as Alan Pardew says, but Ian Abrahams is watching it.
Spurs 0, Crystal Palace 1. Ismaila Sarr has scored the goal. Spurs are moaning like mad, but if the goal's been given, I don't see any VAR decision. Initially, it was brilliant hold-up play by Strand Larsen in the middle of the pitch. Got the ball out to the right-hand side for Gesson. Gesson's first thought was to get the ball into the middle for Ismaila Sarr. It's poor defending by, I think it's Danso alongside him initially, who doesn't get the ball. Maybe Sarr was offside, actually, looking at a replay, but I haven't seen that they're checking this, and they're lining up as if they're ready to go. Sarr ran it inside the penalty area. His shot was deflected over Vicario into the corner of the net, but I think this is poor defending by Spurs after some really good hold-up play by Strand Larsen. Yeah, Palace have got slightly lucky in the end. Actually, they are checking it now for a VAR for possible offside. They've taken their time over this one, I tell you, because as Alan Pardew said about 2 minutes ago, it did look as if Ismaila Sarr was offside. But the one thing it might well be is a wake-up call for Spurs. Very lackadaisical, as Alan was saying, in the opening quarter hour of the game. But it was Palace who started the faster and started the better. And to be fair, there's been no injection of pace from Spurs at any point. It's almost like they're playing a testimonial here tonight. They're not pressing from the front properly, are they, Alan? Watching in the studio, they're not pressing properly from the front. And if they do get away with this, not counting, which I think they might do, could this be a wake-up call? Because if they go a goal down to Palace legitimately, I think it might be a long way back for them.
Well, sometimes, those VAR calls can be a positive, and this could be a big positive for Spurs because it's really tight. I mean, it looks like he's behind the ball when he's played it. So I think that's what they're looking at, the second phase of this attack.
On the line of the pitch. Yeah, I see what you mean by.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, this guy, when I'm looking at it again,
it's bad defending though, isn't it? Shouldn't the centre half get across him though?
Yeah, I think he thinks he's offside, but the ball looks him just slightly in front of the player who's made the run. So, but anyway, you're right. It's a defensive. Defence is not great in this. And this will be a massive blow, but this is a big decision, isn't it, Moose? Big decision.
Surely, yeah. This is a huge decision. I think it's a huge decision not only for this game, but in Spurs' season as well, because I think they've been racked by nerves tonight. The fans are not really getting behind them. There's fans sort of leaning over behind me, who I would say, if they were outside my house shouting at me, I wouldn't call it positive. The referee has overruled it. He has given offside, so the goal will not stand. It has been disallowed. Wow. But for Spurs, that has to be a wake-up call now. They have to start playing. They have to start playing better. In his programme, as Igor Tudor said, the levels have to improve significantly. I don't think they have so far.
No.
I think they've just dodged the bullet there.
No, it's his hand.
I thought it was his head.
No, it's his hand.
You can't score with your hand.
And his nose.
It's the nose. You can't score with the hand.
Well, Moose, we just got to tell you the news, mate. It was his nose and his hand that were offside. Look.
Yeah, Oliver Glasner said it's the nose.
When I started watching football 50 years ago, it had to be daylight, and I know Arsene Wenger's been talking about that. I would love to go back to that. I think this is utter nonsense that parts of your body you're not even allowed to score from and wouldn't dream of scoring with, are now ruling out goals. But here we are, 0-0, and as I say, I think Spurs have dodged a bit of a bullet there, Alan.
OK, thank you very much. Another lengthy VAR delay, but it has ruled the goal offside. We will continue to talk about the race.
I've got to talk about Sarr's nose. He's not, he's got a protruding nose. He's got quite a dimply nose. How can that be offside with his nose and his fingers?
He's not Pinocchio, is that what you're saying?
Ridiculous. No, I've got a few mates, a few big nose mates. If they was caught offside with it, I could understand
it. Get it? You'd be like, that's well offside. That though. Listen, it's.
And now they've scored.
Oh no, that was a chance for Tottenham through.
But that's how VAR can switch games. When you have VAR and a goal's disallowed, for example, massive boost.
Well,
massive.
You actually saw even just tell there, even
the
chance
fans.
that he had. He's trying to G up the Tottenham fans. And yes, 0-0 it is. More updates to come. And on the way, we will continue to talk about the race for Europe. Could Brentford really make it?
game every week where the goalkeepers go over. They do that one where they go up for the ball, they jump, and then they fall forward, and they waste 4 or 5 seconds on the floor. Every single goalkeeper does
I liked what you said before that, though, Gary. We're closing ranks and we're just getting on with it. Daniel's a big Arsenal fan. Do you agree with Gary there, Daniel? You're closing ranks and you're just getting on with it.
I fully agree with Daniel. I fully agree with Gary.
Yeah.
Reason being is, do you remember before Arteta joined Arsenal, how Arsenal was before? We were walk the ball into the net, weak old Arsenal. You can't win games like that. Now we're strong Arsenal, we're boisterous Arsenal, and I love the fact that we're playing housery. Love it. Finally, Arsenal are doing a bit of housery, what every other team has been doing for the last 40 years that I've been alive. Why is it that Arsenal seems to be the problem?
Right. Okay. Why do you think that this is the top topic of conversation this morning? Because everybody else outside Arsenal, it seems, isn't having it.
Well, it could be down to jealousy. It could be down to Gabby and Bon Lahore spatting out rubbish, or Jamie O'Hara, jealous O'Hara, spatting his rubbish.
Okay.
It could be down to that.
You're not bothered, Daniel. As long as you drive towards winning this title, that's all that counts.
No way. Arsenal, Arsenal, Arsenal.
Okay, Daniel, thank you for that.
This is Kick-Off. It's Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. And how a game can change in just a matter of moments. Let's take you back to Ian Abrahams.
Spurs 1, Palace 0. Spurs thought they conceded a goal to Ismaila Sarr. That was ruled offside because of Sarr's nose. Sarr's in here. Has he gone down inside the penalty area and get a penalty for that? Within a minute, he has got a penalty for it. Unbelievable. So we've got a penalty here and a red card. Wow! Well, let me tell you about Spurs' goal first of all. Archie Gray, right-hand side, got to the byline, pulled it across for Dominic Solanke to touch home from close range. And now Andy Madley, I think he sent off Mickey van de Ven. Ball over the top, was looking for Ismaila Sarr. To be fair, was in on goal and would have had a shot at Vicario. And he has produced the red card. Now, van de Ven started grappling with him right outside the area, does put his arm back. He pulls his arm back, and Sarr is denied a goal-scoring opportunity. I think Andy Madley's got this right, providing it isn't overturned in terms of it being outside the area. That's where it starts from. Alan, you've probably seen it now. Is that enough outside the area to save Van de Ven here, or not?
No, I don't think the significant part of the foul was outside the area. He had his arm on his arm, but he kind of pulled it down, the arm down in the area. So I think the referee's right. I think this is a penalty. The captain's been sent off.
And the red as well.
Yeah.
And the red, yeah. Wow, this is unbelievable.
Not only is Christian Romero serving the last of his 4-game ban for being sent off, but Spurs' disciplinary problems now continue because Van de Ven, the standing captain, has been sent off. It is going to be a penalty to Crystal Palace as Van de Ven very quickly leaves the scene, or not quickly, but he's walking off. He's trudging off at the moment. He's not waiting around and arguing about it. He's actually gone off. He's getting a round of applause. Never understood why a player being sent off should ever be given a round of applause by the fans. But it will be a penalty to Crystal Palace to be taken by Ismaila Sarr. Now, he was the man that was denied a goal because of his protruding nose a few moments ago. He was brought down for the penalty. Can Ismaila Sarr level it up for Palace? Remember, Spurs led through Dominic Solanke on 34 minutes. And now 5 minutes later, the opportunity for Ismaila Sarr from the penalty spot to level for Crystal Palace. The fans behind him are trying to boo him to put him off. Sarr begins a walk towards the ball, stutters, stops, and now he coolly puts it into the back of the net beyond Vicario, and Spurs' lead lasted 5 minutes. And not only have they conceded from the penalty spot, more costly than that, they've lost their captain and their best defender as well for the rest of the game. So what an opening 39-40 minutes here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where it's now Spurs 1, Crystal Palace 1. Spurs are down to 10 men.
Wow. What a few minutes it has been then at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And just to go back onto this penalty and red card decision, for you, very much as a red card. I mean, he's pulled him back. He's Mickey van der Ven. I think Andy Manley. I think I'm in agreement with you. I can see it only as a red card, and there's no way VAR would have thought any different.
No, because he's almost on the penalty spot where he's going to, so, I mean, he can't get in. There's no defenders near him. So there is no argument that it's a penalty and a sending off. He got himself in a poor position, Van der Ven. He's on the wrong side of the player initially, and that's where his problems come. He's stugging at him, but then he's actually pulled him down in the box. I mean, to have your two best centre-halves, that they're two very good players for Spurs, now both banned, I think, in the next game. Romero's got one more, I think, and Van der Ven obviously will miss. So, and now, to try and play this game out with 10 men. I mean, last night Newcastle managed to achieve that against Man United, so it's not impossible. But from what we've seen, it doesn't look like Spurs have got that same kind of, well, they haven't quite got the same minerals. Put it that way.
No, perhaps not. But what a costly red card, as you say. And discipline has been an issue at Tottenham. I mean, we know Romero has had a number of red cards, and yet another significant player that Igor Tudor now is going to have to do without.
By the way, he's very unlucky not to score because of the length of his nose, Sar, right? In the first place. But he's a very underrated player, and he took that penalty. Didn't he take it coolly? I mean, you talk about the pressure of the situation. Wow.
Very,
he just
very
strolled up, nonchalantly just passed it in the corner.
I think, though, this is the last game for Romero to be banned. So I think he will return for the next one.
Okay.
Which is some light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps.
Yeah.
But just going back onto the Tottenham goal as well, what great work it was by Archie Gray.
Yeah, Archie Gray, who's probably, I don't know, I mean, I don't see, well, I see most Spurs games, but Archie Gray's been sort of one of the successes. And he did brilliantly. He sort of escaped the clutches of two defenders. It looks like it's going out of play. He keeps it in play, and Solanke, being a striker, gets across the centre half and has a tap in. And there you think, well, okay, maybe that little bit of luck with the goal being disallowed, and then scoring straight away 5 minutes later. Spurs night. Here we go. No.
Let's take you back to Ian Abrahams, because that red card has led to Igor Tudor making some changes, Ian.
Yeah, he's had to make changes, and especially at left back where Sousa came off because if he was already on a yellow card. I mentioned it right at the beginning of the match. He was yellow carded for a foul on Muniz, which saw Muniz going off the pitch with an injury. And if Spurs go down to 9 men, they are in absolute hot water here. So he had to come off. So he's been replaced. Basuma is on, and so too is Conor Gallagher. And they've taken off one of their attacking players, Kalimawani, because they basically just can't afford now to have 3 up front. So it's really interesting to see what they're going to do. They're going to just pack the midfield, I reckon. And they're going to move Archie Gray back into probably what will be a back 5 now as well. And Basuma will play as a left wing back. But this is going all wrong for Igor Tudor so far tonight. Yes, his team led briefly, but now down to 10 men against Crystal Palace, and having conceded that penalty, this is not what the standing Tottenham or the managers for the end of the season would have wanted. And I think he can't wait for half-time, Alan, probably to get his troops in at half-time and give them a talking to. Spurs 1, Palace 1. What would your half-time team talk be, Mr. Pardew?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Spurs, I mean, you're absolutely right the way he set them up. He has got 5 across the back, 3 midfield players, central midfield players, and Solanke on his own sort of being the top of a diamond, really, of that 4. So that's the system they're playing. I mean, it's a good system defensively. It's a sound system. But, you can imagine that Crystal Palace are going to dominate the ball. You're going to have to try and make the moments really count when you're on the counter-attack. That will be the key message at half-time, I should think.
We've got a couple of minutes half-time, plus probably I would suspect 3, 4, maybe even 5 added minutes because of the long VAR check. But it's Spurs 1, Palace 1.
Ian, thank you very much. Quite an eventful London derby taking place this evening, and we'll keep you regularly updated on it. Do you think in any way as well, bear in mind they are playing on Tuesday and they go to Atletico Madrid. I mean, you never want to play with 10 men. Obviously, you don't want to lose a player to a red card. But how exhausted these players might be from this game, then heading into that tie in Spain, is that ever on your mind?
It wouldn't be at this stage. No. I mean, Tudor purely just wanting to get out the other end of this game.
Yeah.
Certainly with a draw, and you'd still have hopes for a win even with 10. It's not like as a manager, you go, oh, you know, we just try and get away with a draw. You are still trying to win. So, you know, that will be the motive. I mean, the worry is obviously when the game finishes, what is the team for next week? Who's available? What injuries have we got? We's already suspended, blah, blah. I mean, Van der Ven is their best player. So, is it 1 game or 2 games does he get for that straight red?
I'd have to double check it.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Double check all of that for you. Yes, I'm thinking more 2 than 1.
Yeah.
But we'll double check everything for you.
Yeah.
Right. As I say, this one's just approaching half time, although they're into 8 minutes of added on time in that first half. So we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll bring you the closing stages of that. See, it's eventful. You can't keep your eye off it. You are listening in to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleware.org.
Manchester United. Has anyone seen Michael Carrick's new contract? New job offer. Contract. Job offer. Can you hear me contract? You almost don't win. Hell of a beating Fergie. Blessing Ruben Amorim. Where have you been, Ruben Amorim? Eric Ten Hag. Wreck-It Ralph. Can you hear me, Wreck-It Ralph? You almost don't win. Hell of a beating Ollie at the wheel. Was that my plate? What's happening? It's all gone wrong. Help me out, Greg. Help me out. Help me out. Has anyone seen Darren Fletcher? Has anyone seen Fred the Red? Fred the Red, your boy took one. Hell of a beating Mick Hucknall. The Big Rat Barbecue. The Big Rat Barbecue. Can you hear me, Big Rat? Your boy took one. Hell of a beating Alex Crook. Frank Eiler. Can you hear me, Crookie? Andy Goldstein, Andy Goldstein, Andy Goldstein. You always want to hell of it. Has anyone seen Aston Villa? Has anyone seen Gabby Aguilar? Your boy took one hell of a beating up the shells.
Terrible night for Spurs. We ain't even kicked a ball. Arsenal put themselves 7 points clear at the top of the table. They were shocking though, but they managed to win. Man City threw it away. West Ham won. They're starting to look decent. Nottingham Forest get a point. Spurs, oh wow, we're 1 point above the drop zone. What is going on? Chelsea, they made a statement. 4-1 win. What on earth has happened to Aston Villa? They fell off
a cliff.
They have gone. And Manchester United, woo! What's happened there? They've thrown that away as well.
Anyway, this is Kickoff. Thank you very much for joining us this Thursday evening. It's Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer with you, and we are keeping you very much up to date with what's happening in the Tottenham Crystal Palace game, where there has been another goal. Ian Abrahams.
Spurs 1, Crystal Palace 2, just as we entered 8 minutes of added on time. Matthias Tell gave the ball. He was running just away from his own penalty, tried to play the ball inside. I think it was towards maybe Yves Bissouma, but Bissouma was beaten to the challenge. Wharton then fed the ball inside the penalty area to Strand Larsen, right-hand side, who fired through the legs of Vicario. So Tell's pass was poor. I thought that the defending to let Strand Larsen run off the defender to get onto the ball was poor, and Vicario should have kept his legs closed. Apart from that, nothing wrong with the goal from a Spurs point of view, who led in this game down to 10 men with Mickey van der Ven having gone off. and now they are behind and really struggling and really need half-time to come quickly. Strand Larsen and Ismail Assar, who's also had a goal disallowed. This could have been even worse for Tottenham as Palace come forward again. Spurs 1, Palace 2.
I mean, the way he set the Spurs up, Tell is playing left wing back, and I'm pretty confident that he's never played there in his life in a crucial game, and he makes a decision from left wing back to play a square ball across the pitch, which no fullback would do, and puts it at risk. Gets nicked. Wharton then does a clever little pass to Larsen, and Larsen toe pokes it really, and that's the goal. So that is a little bit of a tactical setup that's incorrect for me, and I don't think Tell's going to be comfortable down this side. So let's see what he does at half time. I have to change that.
Goodness me, this is a game that you can't stop watching. It's that eventful. But as things stand, it puts Crystal Palace 10 points clear of the relegation zone. That will put them
10
on...
wins.
And 10
And
wins.
what is that, my golden rule?
10 wins.
It's safe.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though they always say 40 points is the mark, but you think that
but usually you can nick enough draws if you need to just crawl across the line. Yeah. But 10 wins is normally the job done.
Goodness me. And it's just to think that Tottenham took the lead in this one.
Yeah.
And then it fell apart very, very quickly with that Mickey van der Ven sending off and penalty. And now Palace are ahead.
And we have Tell at left wing back.
Which you're bemused about. But it's a needs-must scenario, is it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you do put a wide player in a wing-back position, to sort of balance you up because you might have a defender on the other side. They've got Archie Gray playing that role, but I just don't think he looks... It's another goal, by the way.
Oh, it's all going wrong. Let's take you back, shall we, to Ian Abrahams.
Spurs 1, Crystal Palace 3. Ismail Assar has his second, and this was so simple. There are boos already ringing around the stadium, and I tell you what, there are some grumpy faces amongst the Spurs fans behind me, who I think are now resigned to the fact they might be playing Lincoln at home on the opening day of the season next year. This was really poor again. Ball just played into the middle, chipped into the middle. Sarr got there first and got it past Vicario into the back of the net. We've played 7 of the 8 added minutes. And twice in that period of time, Crystal Palace have scored. It's just so simple scoring against this Spurs team at the moment. Another assist for Wharton. It was just a chip ball forward inside the penalty area, and Sarr managed to steer it past Vicario, having got there first. Simple goals scored by Crystal Palace, and they are looking like Brazil 1982 here. It's Spurs 1, 10-man Spurs 1, Crystal Palace 3. Remember, Spurs are 1 point outside the relegation zone without a win this calendar year.
I mean, it's a lovely finish from Sarr.
I told you before, didn't I, about Sarr? He is the mystery great player that no one seems to know about. But great ball from Wharton. He's got that. When you can afford him to play forward. I mean, that we're watching the TV shots here of Spurs fans leaving. And it's half time. I mean, it's real desperate stuff, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, we did see shots of fans leaving. It has to be said, the exodus when that goal went in to make it 3-1 to Crystal Palace. And you think now, going in, it's not yet half-time, by the way. Igor Tudor has got a big team talk to come. Let's take you back to the Moose, shall we? And just to give us a sense of the feeling right now as we approach that half-time whistle.
Well, you'll be able to hear what the Spurs fans that are left think of it in about a minute or two. As Andy Madley in the middle of the pitch, everyone looking at him. Palace started brightly, thought they'd score for Ismail Assar. That was ruled out because apparently his nose was offside. But then straight up the other end, Spurs went and scored. Dominic Solanke after good work by Archie Gray. But that's as good as the evening got for Spurs, who immediately had their captain Van der Ven sent off for pulling back Sarr inside the penalty area. That was a penalty Sarr converted for 1-1. It was then Strand Larsen. I'll break a second, hang on. I think you get the impression that Spurs fans are not happy. And there's not, by the way, there's not many in this stadium right now. A lot have gone off at half-time to drown their sorrow. Strand Larsen's second was a finish through the legs of Vicario before Wharton created the third as well with a chip ball inside the penalty area. for Sarr to nick it past Vicario. Sometimes it can be difficult playing against 10 men. Spurs are proving that's not always the case. Palace are in front here, and Spurs, a point outside the bottom three and possibly facing relegation, are in so much trouble there isn't an adjective in the English dictionary to describe it. Spurs 1, Palace 3.
Goodness me, it has fallen apart so very, very quickly, that capitulation, Alan.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough night for that football club because to be 3-1 down at home again at home, to lose another game, to lose your captain, centre half to a sending off and walking off that pitch. I mean, I just can't imagine how he's going to pick them up. I mean, that if you're going to give yourself as a managerial kind of code a team talk, that is got to be the team talk of all team talks. That one.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I know you're also really big on goal difference.
Yeah.
And the way that this is panning out, it means now Tottenham move on to -7. So does that effectively give them another point on top of the teams below them?
Yeah, it does. But, there's a lot that's happened between now and the end of the year, and they've still got a second half to play, yeah?
Yes.
So, let's see where it all pans out. But, when you think about the size of the football club, to be in this situation it is beyond belief, really. But Palace have just carved through them since the sending off.
It's been very, very easy for them, like you say. I mean, Sarr has just broken through a number of times with ease.
Walton and Sarr, that combination. And Larson. When you look at Crystal Palace, I mean, I can go back to all the Palace teams from 1980 onwards, really. And if you put them up against Spurs team individually, not many Palace players would get in a Spurs team. Whenever you played them, you had to really grind and fight. But I would say, like half this Palace team would easily get in that Spurs team. Maybe more. So that's the concern.
3-1 down then, Tottenham are. As we mentioned already, it does push Palace onto 38 points, which actually moves them up to 13th in the table, so they go above Brighton if they win this game as a result. Just very quickly before we hit the break, 2 wins at home all season, Tottenham, in the league. What is it about this stadium that they just can't make their home? Because this isn't just this season, it's been...
Yeah, I mean, last year we had so many disappointments at home. I just... it's difficult. When you're on that kind of run and, the confidence levels are so low. I mean, I could easily ask you a question, who's the Spurs' best player? And you'd struggle to answer that, wouldn't you? And then we've watched the whole game, really, or like the half of the game. So that's the problem you have, is trying and get 4 or 5 performances out of this team. And at the minute, they can't seem to get that. This is the... situations where you get your passing across the pitch like that, it just gives the opposition such an easy task to cut it out. And when you cut it out, the back four are not together. And if you're putting the ball at risk and your back four is not together, you're going to concede.
Adam Walton is coming for some stick from Palace fans this season, but he's having a great evening, being instrumental in their attacking phase and also with the goals as well. We will bring you second half updates, of course, as they happen when that one gets underway. But of course, we had an 8-minute added on time, so second half will come a little bit later on. And we will at some point maybe get onto this discussion for the race for Europe beyond the Champions League as well on Kickoff.
the fact that Arsenal, yet again, seem to have grinded out a result, this time at Brighton last night. But Simon, did you say in the passing there seems to be some kind of bias towards Arsenal or against Arsenal? As we went into that break, you were saying to me, there is undoubtedly a bias. Is there a bias?
Well, it feels like there's a narrative being created which then creates its own version of bias. Because all of a sudden we're hearing punditry and commentary which is taking a side and it's not saying to win a Premier League for your first time in 22 years where you don't have the knowledge, you're going to have some guile. Then you're going to have some gumption and you're going to have to be strong and overcome adversity in difficult games. Can you go to Stoke on a wet Tuesday night and win the Premier League when it's ugly? So Arsenal are saying, yes, we can.
Yeah.
We can also top the Champions League.
Yeah.
We can also be in the in finals of the League Cup, and we can also be in the FA Cup. But subsequently, now what's happening is people are going, let's really unpick this and really unwind it and say what we think it should be and judge it by a different set of standards that we've judged other people by.
Right.
Now, I don't like to find myself in the camp where I'm veering towards Keown cul-de-sac.
I was going to say, you've crossed the divide.
But I'm not crossing the divide in the way that they are, because I think their observations about punditry is silly, because I think the pundits like Neville and other people go after Man United as much as they go after Arsenal. So they're either good pundits or bad, but you like the pundits or you don't. But I feel that when you start hearing the kind of comments that we're hearing, and now the managers are doing it, I don't think I've heard a manager talk about another manager's choice of play. Yes, when they're one of the lesser sides, when it's like Arsenal were doing it to Bolton because you saw Arsene Wenger bristling, and we all used to laugh going, you can't take it up yet.
But you quite liked what Ursula said at the end of that game last night, didn't you?
Not really. I have a bias because he's a Brighton manager.
Over the years, we've been treated to some amazing exhibition events in sports. Some become iconic, but many fail to live up to the hype. So what are some of the most anticlimactic exhibitions? Technically, it wasn't an exhibition because it ended up being sanctioned as a pro fight, but it basically was. 2024 saw Mike Tyson return to the ring to fight YouTuber Jake Paul. The event, which Paul won, was streamed by 65 million people on Netflix, making it the most streamed sporting event ever at the time. But many complained of buffering and freezing. And as for the fight itself, well, it was considered an entertaining disaster. I mean, it wasn't prime Tyson. He was 58. And after the fight, Paul, who was 27 at the time, said he'd actually gone easy on Tyson towards the end. Now, Mayweather-McGregor in 2017 was a better watch, despite Mayweather going rope-a-dope early on, but it was way too expensive. Pay-per-view was 75 quid. And in the stadium, the cheapest ticket was over 370. Now, this next one you could have watched for free, only because the pay-per-view had streaming issues, so they had to open it out. I'm talking about Tiger versus Phil in 2018, which was nicknamed The Match. Massive names and massive rivals going head-to-head. On paper, it worked. In reality, it didn't. The two players were mic'd up, so we all thought we'll get fascinating insight. We'll be able to hear them insult each other for 18 holes. But what we actually got was more heavy breathing and sniffles. And for two GOATs, the golf itself was bang average. And speaking of GOATs, let's end with Messi and Ronaldo. In 2023, an exhibition between PSG and the Riyadh All-Star 11 saw them share a pitch for possibly the final time. To be fair, it was a goal fest, which PSG won 5-4, and Messi and Ronaldo both scored. But it was obvious they were past their prime. El Clasico, this was not. And with it being in Saudi, there were more sports washing claims. So there you have it. Exhibitions that have let us down. And I didn't even have time to mention the community.
Good evening. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me this Thursday evening it is Alan Pardew, and we've already had an exciting couple of hours. This is the final hour of the show, and we will also keep you bang up to speed with what's happening in that Tottenham Crystal Palace match, which is at half-time, and Palace coming from behind to lead 3-1 at the break. Mickey van der Ven has been sent off as well for Tottenham. It does put Spurs in real jeopardy as they're only just 1 point clear of the relegation zone. As for Crystal Palace, well, it moves them 10 points clear as things stand, and it moves them up to 13th. So a little rosier, and a little maybe, maybe Palace fans right now are feeling a little bit happier about things. We'll continue to update you on that one, and we will also... where am I going? Am I doing the competition read now? Would you want me to do that now? Sorry, I'm just checking. Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, sorry. Before we move on to the subject of the Championship playoffs, how does a VIP private suite for you and 11 mates for a day at the cricket sound this summer? Time is running out, but thanks to Pitch Experiences, we're sending you to their super box at the Oval for the England versus Sri Lanka one-day international, and it's in total luxury. I think, Alan, you'd love this.
Love it.
We're talking fine dining, your own personal mixologist, yes please,
Ooh.
private balcony, and a Q&A with cricket legends whilst you watch the action. It really is the ultimate
Those cricket boys
summer day
got
out.
some good stories.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they got some good stories.
It will be a fun afternoon. I don't think you even have to be a cricket fan. You'll just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of fun and a lot of socialising, shall we say, with your mates. Now, you might want a pen and paper for this one to note down how you enter, but for your chance to win, you can text the word WIN to 83338. So that's text the word WIN to 83338. Texts do cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call this number 0343 418 7260. That's 0343 418 7260. Now, lines close tomorrow at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. It's only for 18s and over and UK residents. This is a TalkSPORT promotion. Full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com. And just a reminder, for your chance to win, you can simply text the word WIN to 83338 now. OK, let's get back to the story of the Championship playoffs that are changing next season. I'm sure most of you have heard about it when Max Scott just brought us up to speed with how it's going to look next season. But the clubs have voted in favour of expanding them from 4 teams to 6. So what now is usually the 3rd place to 6th will end up being 3rd place to 8th, all being a part of the playoffs. It does slightly tinker, obviously, with how it sort of pans out as to who plays who and when, for example. For example, 3rd and 4th will automatically qualify for the semi-final. So assume what we normally see in the playoffs, that is what they'll be doing. They'll just go straight through to a 2-legged semi-final. But for the teams below them, 5th will end up playing 8th, and 6th will take on 7th in what is a one-off game. And then the winners of those matches will then go on to take on the 3rd and 4th place teams. So, excuse me, the question is, does this make it all interesting or more interesting, or does it really create a mockery? We heard Simon Jordan just a few moments ago saying this is all about the money. I'm sure most people will think that, Alan, that is the case in this one, because I can't see what else the benefit is, really.
Well, you can imagine that the owners of the football clubs have voted for this, because it's going to just create a little bit more of a chance of getting to the golden fleece, which is the Premier League, of course. So if you're saying 8 get promoted, right, then that splits the division into 3 departments, really. You got 8 in the middle, and you got 8 probably involved in the relegation. Okay, so 24 teams. So there is 5 points between 16th place and 8th place to say.
Yeah.
And what I know about the Championship, and when I was in it, 3 wins jumps you like 6 places usually. 3 straight wins. So 1 week from Saturday win, Tuesday win, Saturday win, you could find yourself in a playoff position. So it's going to create real jeopardy. It definitely, and I agree with Simon, it's definitely a financial element to this in terms of for the Championship, the playoff games, there'll be extra revenue, etc. But of course, for the ownerships, there is that added bonus of being able to get into those playoffs and maybe getting that promotion to the Golden Fleece.
Well, let's bring on our EFL expert, I should say, Simon Watts, who can bring us his perspective on all of this. Good evening to you, Simon. How are you?
Evening, Natalie. Evening, Alan. Yeah, very good, thank you.
Great to have you with us, and thank you for joining us. Just to talk about this new idea, I suppose one of the big questions is, why do you think it's just the Championship and Leagues 1 and 2 are not, have not even been given the chance, I guess, to vote on this?
I think it will probably be expanded out, and from what I'm hearing, it is likely to be brought in to the League 1 and League 2 campaigns as well. As you probably talked about on talkSPORT today, it's been quite successfully implemented in the National League, albeit that's a league where there's only one automatic promotion place. I can see both sides of the argument, but, I'd quite like to make a case for this being a good idea, quite simply because... And, I've heard that there are maybe rumblings that the Premier League are concerned about it dropping the quality. But I don't think, that's a decision for them to make. And I look at some of the clubs who are knocking on the door but haven't been able to get in, or maybe this season have an opportunity. The likes of your Millwalls, your Prestons, Wrexham, even teams that have never been in the Premier League before, Bristol City, a massive city who've fallen short in recent years. Why not open the door up? And, it is the most diverse league in the world, the Premier League. So why not open it up to that extra representation? And, maybe in a few years to come, that gap won't be so big if some of those clubs who've missed out but might have the opportunity through finishing 8th and still being able to be promoted have that chance to get into the Premier League and get the resources behind them that, say, an Ipswich Town have come down with and rebuilt and strengthened again. So actually, I think it could strengthen the EFL over a period of time. And, I'd love to rewind, if I had the resources and the wherewithal to do it, to when the playoffs were first introduced to the Football League many, many moons ago and see whether it was a similar sort of conversation happening back then. Because nobody could have predicted some of the excitement and probably the greatest drama that we've seen in football happening in the last 30 years plus without the playoffs. And, it opens the door for a little bit more drama, a little bit more chaos. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
I mean, it's interesting, you're right. I think 1987 was when the playoffs were first introduced. And that's actually a question as we were having our meeting beforehand where I said the same thing as you, Simon. I bet at that time, many eyebrows would have been raised. There would have been many dissenters, many thinking this is not what we want. But fast forward to now, the playoffs is so very much a part of our EFL heritage. And it's just such excitement that it brings to an end of a season. So I think part of the, let's say, negativity, and I know I'm a bit like, I'm a traditionalist. I kind of like the system as it is. But, let's talk about 3, 4, 5 years down the line, even further. If it stays as 8, we'll all just be like, it's fantastic, it's brilliant. We've still got the drama of the playoffs. But like you as well, I can see both sides of it. And I can also think the Premier League might be asking, as you rightly pointed out, do we really want the team finishing in 8th coming into the Premier League?
Well, I personally, I'm a big fan of the playoffs for obvious reasons. I've been involved in them a few times. And I can tell you, I got promoted straight away and I've been promoted through the playoffs and I know which was best. Yeah. Taking that trophy around the stadium and everything else that follows is some special moment, not just for the players and the staff and everything, but for the fans and the club. So I'm all for it. I'm up for this 8th place. I get it. I see why they've done it. I haven't got a big problem personally with it.
Yeah, and I guess, Simon, what that also means is that come the end of the season, there's going to be more riding on games.
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking at the push for the playoffs in the Championship at the moment. And yeah, it's crazy to say that teams literally in the bottom half of the table at the minute, likes of Preston, who've fallen off a little bit, but a couple of wins are they're right back in the picture. We've seen sides like Watford shoot up the table. Derby County, I remember back in October covering a game where they were literally just above the drop. Fans were calling for John Eustace to go, and now they're in the playoff mix themselves, and it will only expand that a little bit more. And look, I think the key point to remember with this is it's not going to disadvantage the teams who finish 3rd and 4th. Actually, quite the opposite. And maybe one of the biggest arguments when the playoffs were first introduced were, and I get it, a team could finish 3rd, 30 points potentially above the team finishing 6th, and the team finishing 6th can still be promoted. But they've still got to win those matches to get through. And because we have this eliminator, it provides an opportunity that, those teams finishing 7th and 8th, they're going to have to do a lot more to get promoted. And in actual fact, what we've seen in recent years, if you look at the history of the Championship playoffs, 13 of the last 16 years, it has been a team in third or fourth who've gone up. Only once in the last 16 years has a team who's finished sixth in the table actually been promoted to the Premier League. So it doesn't actually happen that often. So I wouldn't say that it necessarily is going to mean that team that finishes eighth will go up. But if they do, they're going to have to come through 4 matches. And some might argue that warrants in itself the reward of getting promoted if they manage to come through that long route.
Just quickly, what's been the reaction that you've heard then from other fans of EFL clubs? Are they largely in favour of this?
You know what, it's so mixed, Natalie. I mean, there are a lot of traditionalists, and I'm generally a bit of a football traditionalist myself, don't like change, and people are saying if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yeah, I get the argument. It's ludicrous that a team who could be having a pretty bog standard season manages to pull it together at the end and get themselves into, say, the top 8 positions and could then be involved in a promotion mix. So it certainly hasn't been met with universal approval. But I genuinely feel that, you know, I support a team in the Championship right now, and there is nothing more boring than you get to this stage of the season. Sadly, my club's in a relegation battle, so it's not like this. But you get to the end of the season and there are dead rubbers, and you're sort of struggling for motivation to get yourself along to games. And you know, I think having the more jeopardy, surely the more jeopardy, the better. And particularly as, you know, this has been introduced next season. It's not like they're suddenly saying, right, this is what's happening now, this season. So everybody knows when they're going into the new season, what is up for grabs, what the reward is if you finish in 3rd place versus finishing in 7th place, etc., etc. So it's going to be an even playing field at the start. So I think we've just got to embrace it and give it a go, because if there's more excitement at the end of the season, and the playoffs do bring great drama, I'm all for seeing an extra couple of matches.
I tell you what, the teams coming down from the Premier League might enjoy it as well, because it might give them a better chance of bouncing straight back up. Bear in mind, the ones that have gone down this season, or last season, I should say, have really struggled, bar Ipswich. So some of them might be looking at it as another opportunity.
Yeah, and also, sometimes I remember when I took over at Southampton, we were minus 10 points because we had a financial penalty. And we managed to get 8th at the end of that season. I think it was 8th, might have been 7th. So we just missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you could even do it with a financial. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
If you got hit with some kind of fine, you could still manage to get there. So it would give hope. I mean, I'm all for jeopardy, but you know, where does it stop? Why don't we just have playoffs down to 12? 14? I mean that's that's another argument.
Well,
let's just say we're settled for 8 at the moment.
You could argue that every team should play each other home and away over 46 games, and then we'll find out who goes up from there.
Yeah.
Simon, thank you for being with us. Really appreciate you joining us and giving us that insight.
Simon.
But a fascinating look ahead to what is to come next season in the Championship, and as Simon alluded to there, probably in the near future. Leagues 1 and 2 will bring it in as well.
Yeah, and on my league managers sort of head on, I think it will actually preserve some managers a little bit, because, some of the, I think it's 9 months is the average tenure of a Championship manager.
9 months.
Yeah, which is astounding, isn't it? But, it might be that middle section where managers will get sacked because they've still got the chance of maybe getting the playoffs, stick with them a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah. By the way, the second half has got underway at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. No goals in this second half. Palace still leading 3-1 with Tottenham down to 10 men after Mickey van der Ven's red card. But we did see an exodus of some Tottenham fans when that third goal went in. So maybe if Tottenham fans are listening in right now and want to have a little chat with us and how you're feeling about your season, now knowing that if you lose this one, it does mean that you will stay just a point clear of the relegation zone, and it will be a 14th loss this season. And playing at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium certainly has not been your friend, it has to be said. So why not give us a call? Why not vent? Why not get it out? 03717 223344. That's the number you can call us on. You can also message us on WhatsApp via that number, or you can text us to 81089. You're tuning in to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.
So it makes it more interesting, I think, Simon, for fans of other clubs. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If it was all to finish today and this was in operation now,
you'd go way down to 17th with Norwich in the league, having a chance to get into the 8th spot. That's what you do.
Right.
You take 60. You take
it opens up. Yeah.
You take 66% of the league as it sits now. 18 clubs in this league could have a reasonable shout to make a claim for getting 8th spot, because there's 11 games to go in the conventional season. There's 6 points between Derby in 8th and Norwich in 17th.
Right.
And those games, and when you get running at the business end of a season, it really does change the dynamics of how people play. All of a sudden, you've got 66% of the league having something involved. Then you've got the other 25%, or 35%, sorry, sort of going to the Gabby Bongle arithmetic school, the other 34%, which would be fighting for not staying in the division. So you've got constant jeopardy in a league, which actually reminded me when I was over in America looking at the MLS and how they construct their leagues and how many teams get an opportunity to play in their playoffs and participate in outcomes for themselves. They have something like 60 or 70% of the teams in a league any given season that could feature in a playoff scenario.
Right.
So it's all
Does
about...
that affect the quality? There's a message coming through there. You're telling me that 8th could end up going to the Premier League. Surely, that
gonna have to
good in terms of the quality of the club that's going to go
up. There's nip and tuck. More often than not, when you finish 6th in the league, and we went up as a team that finished 6th, there was the points total. I think West Ham finished behind us and Wigan finished behind us in the league, and they were like a point difference. So tell me there's a point difference between 6th and 8th. Pack it in. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org even. Let's take you straight back to the Moose, who is watching Tottenham against Crystal Palace.
Spurs 1, Palace 3. Spurs came into this 1 point outside the relegation zone, and it's been a horrible evening for them. Solanke getting the lead, 2 from Sawyer, 1 from the spot that saw Van der Ven sent off, and 1 from Strand Larsen. Second half, first of all, thing to report is that not everybody that was here at the beginning and went away at half time for a drink has come back. There are so many empty seats, I can't tell you, all around the ground, all sections of the ground, apart from the Palace end, that's still full. There has been a Danso header blocked. Archie Gray had a run inside the area that was blocked by Riyad. At the other end, we very nearly had a moment a second or two ago. Danso and Paulinia almost left the ball to each other, which would have allowed Strand Larsen in, but he wasn't quite aware of where the ball was. Otherwise, it could have been a problem for Spurs. Palace are stroking it around to Olays from the fans in the away end. Tottenham just don't have a response, and don't forget, they need 3 goals to win it, 2 to even get a draw. That's looking unlikely. An hour gone. Palace 1, Tottenham 1, Palace 3.
Ian Abrahams, thank you very much. Now, we've opened the phone lines up to Tottenham fans this evening after what has been yet another dismal showing for you at home. And let's get you to Ian Allen. He joins us now. Ian, good evening to you. How are you doing?
That's a good question. Dismal isn't the word. I don't know anymore. I've been 60 odd years watching Spurs, and this is by far the worst. And I'm talking about, going back to the relegation team in the 70s. We tottered on the brink a few seasons there before we finally went over the edge, came back first time. It's kind of listening to your conversation about these extra places in the playoffs next season in the Championship, which may do Spurs a bit of a favour.
Oh, there you go. That's a happy thing to look forward to, then.
I don't think there's anything happy at the moment.
Oh, it's just awful.
Yeah, it's just that since Romero was always a liability, but since he's been suspended, they've looked completely rudderless. There's no passion. It's like they don't care anymore. I don't know if this talk of Real Madrid, Manchester United, Barcelona has got to Mickey van der Ven. But the hero of Bilbao, he just seems like he doesn't care anymore. They're good footballers. They're most of them are internationals, and I can't for the life of me work out what is going wrong. Everybody blamed Daniel Levy. Daniel's gone. The situation's still there. They sacked Thomas Frank. They bring in this chap Tudor. I don't think he has a clue about the Premier League. Personally, I would have brought Harry back to at least he has a bit of a feel for the Premier League. But there are mistakes everywhere. Porro at right back. They're giving the ball away. Teams that come to Tottenham all this season have looked really good. And there's another aspect to this. I have a season ticket. I've had one for years, and we're just, the question of value for money. We're not getting entertainment. Never mind getting 3 points every week. And I do fear now. I watched the Forest game last night. They're fighting for their lives, as are West Ham, and Spurs are showing no fight whatsoever. It's as though they feel that they're too good to go down, and that they're European champions or Europa League champions. They're sleepwalking to disaster. We've got Liverpool next. I can't see. I know it's easy to put to make excuses for the injuries. I mean, we've got virtually a whole side from Maddison, the whole lot, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Udogie, they're all injured. And that has to play a part in this.
Yeah, Ian, can I just jump in there? I mean, when you talk about the injury record this year, it was the same as last year. Do you remember, Ange? There was I remember the Madge talking about, we've got a great team actually who were all injured. I mean, the sports science department there and the medical department certainly needs to be looked at. And I don't know whether managerial changes that helps.
No,
If that makes sense. I mean, your next game is Atletico Madrid. That's away, isn't it?
That's in the Champions League, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you don't really need to play them at the moment. So it's looking very, very difficult, Ian. I mean, in your gut, do you think you're going to get out of it? Do you think you can just get by?
Well, no, I don't actually. It's going to be really tight because, as I say, Forest and West Ham, they look solid. They look like they've got something to play for. We've got Forest to come on the 22nd of March. That's the next home game. If we lose that, we've got 4 home games. We've got Forest next. We've got Brighton. We've got Leeds, and we've got Everton on the last game of the season. Our away games are like Liverpool, Chelsea, got Sunderland. I think Villa is the other one.
Yeah.
So, best will in the world, I can't really see us getting any points away from home. But it's those games at home, and they ain't going to be easy. I looked at the other teams, the West Ham and Forest. I mean, they've equally got difficult run-ins, but they've got a bit of fight. Nuno's done something at West Ham, and he's turned them around. They're picking up points. But it's not just the points. It's just that at the moment Spurs are showing no bite. There's nothing there. And when you think of the Stevie Perrimans and the Graham Roberts, Gary Mather, and going back even further to Iron Dave Mackay, I've seen these, I've met some of them, and these were proper hard men, pummeling the palm of their hand with their fists, rolling their sleeves up, getting stuck in. And there's none of that anymore. There's none of that. There's nobody on the pitch to grab hold of them and say, look, this is what we got to do. There's absolutely no leadership on the pitch. There hasn't been for a couple of seasons.
I mean, I'll just go. I think when you look at the Spurs over the years, of course, they've had brilliant players, and they've had brilliant coaches too. We've had some big names going through the door recently as well.
Yeah.
Conte and Mourinho in particular, for example. But, I think this team, forget about tactics. And, I mean, like, for example, Tell's playing wing-back. I think it's more about man management. And when you talk about, like, Harry Redknapp, for example, I think Harry would get a tune just out of them with his personality, if that makes sense. And what they've done is they've brought in Tudor, who's never managed in the Premier League. When Nuno has at West Ham, he's already had a long career in the Premier League. Well, it is long for 3 or 4 years is long in the Premier League. But that experience, it might be the difference.
Yeah.
That might be the difference in going up and staying up or going down.
And of course, the biggest problem
Forget
Tottenham
about the playing stuff.
Well, the biggest problem Tottenham have right now as well, as we talk about Arsenal, maybe Arsenal aren't winning beautifully, but Tottenham can't even win ugly. That's the problem they've got right now. Let's get to Wayne, who's also another Tottenham fan who joins us. How are you, Wayne?
I'm absolutely gutted.
Were you at the game?
Yeah, and I left at half time.
Oh, well.
They're a disgrace. They are an absolute disgrace. That's the worst Tottenham team I've seen in over 37, 38 years. And I really hope they go down this year. And it hurts me to say that. And there's only... I blame the person at the top. That's who you got to start with.
What, Joe Lewis?
Start with him. Exactly. Start with him. You don't spend money. You buy crap. You just buy rubbish players. Who's this manager? Honestly, who is he? Igor Tudor. He was a good player in the 90s at Juventus. He's done nothing as a manager. He's took everyone down.
I think
he's nothing.
I mean,
he's a nobody.
I mean, you just touched on it there, didn't you? With the fact that sometimes Premier League experience is important.
Yeah.
And he's had no Premier League experience.
No, and he has saved a couple of clubs in Serie A, by the way, and sort of turned around. But that's a completely different league and a completely different tempo to the game, etc. So yeah, that inexperience might be the difference. I mean, Wayne, let me ask you a question. Is Wayne still there?
I think he's dropped off.
He's dropped off. I was going to ask him if he's ever left at half time before, because he doesn't sound the type to leave at half time. You know, you can just tell his anger was like, set it apart a little bit.
Well, Tottenham fans, the phone lines are open. You are more than welcome to ring up right now and have your say, exactly like Wayne and Ian did previously. We'd love to know your thoughts. Are you, like Wayne, for example, hoping that you actually will go down because it will lead to a massive change potentially? Or are you just dismayed, like Ian as well? Do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. 03717 223344. Perhaps you are one of those that left. Let us know why you left exactly. I mean, we know why, but give us your reasons and your thoughts behind everything. And I'm just checking, Luke, our producer, is Jamie O'Hara on tonight? He is on tonight, so I'm sure he'll be waiting for your calls too if you're not going to call us in the next half hour or so. But the sports bar will certainly be open. But we're open too for you to join us. So why not have your say on what's going on at Tottenham as they are 3-1 down at home to Crystal Palace.
Not a great evening for Villa at all. Here's one for you, Gab.
Hi, mate.
You're 17th in the form table. They've seen a 10-point gap with Chelsea chipped away to 3 points. They could be 6th after the next round of games, having fallen 16 points off leaders Arsenal. They've lost 4 home games in 2026, including the FA Cup. Now, Gab, I know,
Hi, mate.
but I'll tell you this, mate, and I said at 6 o'clock, as disappointing as it is, mate, it's not. It can't be a great shock to you because you kind of semi-predicted it to me maybe about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, first of all, what I want to say, Ali, is that these players, manager, fan base, cannot feel sorry for themselves.
Yeah.
Aston Villa are in the top 4 as it stands. They're in a knockout stage tie against Lille, which is next Thursday away from home. So it's not all doom and gloom. Has it been a horrendous 2026, of course it has. But you know what it's like in football, Ali? You can't feel sorry for yourself.
Correct, mate.
If you're the leaders at that football club, if you're the Conses, the Mings, the Watkins, you're getting these players together and saying, come on, guys, let's not let our season fizzle out. It's not been good enough. Last night, I mean, where do I start? The first goal, Martson, he's not even looked behind his shoulder. That gusto is there. Enter Fernandez has got time on the ball.
It's worth mentioning, Gabby, you got off to a brilliant start, mate.
Yeah. Fantastic goal, and that was more likely from Leon Bailey, taking his fullback on the outside and using his weaker foot to cross it. Goal. But Aston Villa's tactics were similar to when Unai Emery first come in.
This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. Pleasure to have you alongside us. Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer with you right now. Let's get you straight to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for another check-in on Tottenham against Crystal Palace with Ian Abrahams.
16 minutes to go, as it was at half-time. Spurs 1, Palace 3. Spurs 1 point off the drop zone. Now taking off Dominic Solanke. They're going to bring on Simmons. Certainly there's going to be one change. Richarlison will be the other. Surprised it's taken this long to get Richarlison on the pitch. Porro's coming off as well, I think, for Tottenham Hotspur. But really, the one thing you would say about the second half is that there hasn't really been a response by Spurs. Yes, Solanke had a run and shot that was saved at the near post by Dean Henderson. The other end, Strand Larsen curled one just wide of the Spurs goal. Otherwise, it really has been testimonial, almost walking football from both sides. And I know Spurs down to 10 men. I know they're unlikely to win this game, but I'm sure that the former Premier League manager in the studio, Alan Pardew, would not have accepted his team just sort of falling on their sword so quickly in the second half. They've rarely or barely put up a sweat, really. It's Spurs 1, Palace 3, and Palace are cantering towards victory here.
And Pedro Porro not happy being substituted in this game. He has taken out his anger at the seats. That's the kind of anger you might want to see on the pitch, though.
Yeah,
in a sense of fight.
Well, it's just frustration, you know. Like, I can understand his reaction because he's a defender. He's frustrated. He obviously wants to win, and it's hard to replicate that in the modern game because you can't go smashing into people and whatever because you're just going to pick up yellow cards. So that frustration I can understand. What I would say is that Spurs are now, if you count Romero being suspended, they're now on their fourth captain. So Romero didn't play. Van der Ven was captain. He's been sent off. Porro was captain when Van der Ven got sent off, and now we're on and I don't even know who's got the armband now. I'm trying to find out.
No, I didn't see it. Didn't see the switch.
Someone's got it.
Yeah, we will no doubt keep an eye on that. Let's get to more callers, shall we? James, the Spurs fan, has joined us. Good evening to you, James. I'm just going to ask you one simple question, if you don't mind. Are you down?
I'm very, very down. I mean, I've been a Tottenham fan since I've been 14 years of age, or 10 actually. I went to the final, Tottenham versus Man City, 1981. I've never, ever left the ground before the final whistle. I've left Half time, I went downstairs. There's half an hour left in the game, and I've actually left the ground. The players are not showing the fight. I mean, I don't know how they're going to cope when they get in the Championship because they haven't got the fight. Forget the manager. I mean, Igor Tudor, I mean, he could be in a Tudor bloody house. He's got no idea what he's talking about. But the reality is they're just not good enough, the players. There's no fight. There's no hunger to win a game. It's a complete embarrassment. Oh, I can't believe I'm coming home now in the car half an hour before the game ends. It's the first time ever. I'm distraught at the moment. I just need some help.
Well, I don't know if we can help, unfortunately.
I mean, I think he's just replicating where a lot of Spurs fans are at the moment.
Yes.
The disillusionment of what's going on and what's not just this year. You know, under Ange. I mean, the home games, some of the performances last year were equally as bad as what we're seeing tonight. I mean, going down to 10 men has obviously impaired them tonight, but you know, in terms of what you want to see as a fan. Is a tackle going in and second ball one and a header. You know, that's the commitment side of it that you just expect to happen. And as I said, the start of this game, that first 30 minutes, they didn't really lay a glove on Palace, did they?
No.
You know, when they had 11 on the pitch, they almost just backed off and let Palace keep.
Well, it was actually the disallowed goal that kind of G'd them up.
Yeah, that's right. Sort of knocked them into spirit. But as I say, when you got no confidence, when you haven't really got a player who's playing above his level, and everyone's playing below their level, it's very difficult to pick up the baton, and they can't pick it up tonight. I mean, even to rub salt in the wound, they're on their sort of third captain, and Brendan Johnson's now on the pitch. You know, their ex-player that they sold in the summer.
James, just very quickly,
January.
Are you thinking this could be the season you go down?
I hope not. I mean, there's a lot of teams below us that are not playing well. Although some are actually in form now at the moment.
Yeah, that's
I'm just
the problem.
hoping that is the problem. I don't know. There was talk tonight about Igor, the Tudor, disappearing, and there's going to be maybe Redknapp coming in potentially as a manager. I mean, someone needs to grab hold of these players and say, you're okay, guys. You got to win. You got to get galvanised and get together and actually just perform, as you say before, put some challenges in. It's just not happening at the moment. It's very disheartening. And it's very sad for a Thursday night in London in March.
Well, James, drive home safe, and thank you for calling in. Let's get to Harrison, who was also at the game, but obviously left early as well. Harrison, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're okay. I saw Jamie O'Hara tweet a little bit earlier on that we are doomed, he said, in talking about Tottenham. Do you think you're doomed?
100%. It's game over, unfortunately. But I think, as the caller before, the last guy said, it might be the right kick up the arse to. It might be the right thing that's needed in
it's
order.
all right.
To
you can say that, Harrison. It's all right.
In order to reset the club, because unfortunately, you know, Gareth Bale came out today and he spoke about how. Again, the wage bill, and that, you know, we act like we think we're a big club, but we don't act like it at all. And you're always going to have problems if you continue to spend 30 million on someone who you're hoping will come good rather than actually a finished product who can help the team right now. You know, in January, we didn't bother buying anyone, no one. And again, no one wanted to come to us because of the situation we're in. And there's no other way around it apart from top down.
Yeah, I mean, you know, You know, it sounded like you had a real good go for Semenyo, but a problem you've got, of course, is even if you made him the best financial offer, he probably doesn't want to come because of the situation you're in. So that's a bit of a problem. One thing I would say is that Tottenham Hotspur do not need to get relegated to have a reset. They don't. They can have a reset and stay in the Premier League because the financial impact would be enormous for a club of that size. So that I really, really hope doesn't happen.
But you would have thought last season would have led to the reset.
Correct. And, when you look at the signings and the transfers that have gone on at this football club, that's where the big problem lies. And just going back to Tudor, by the way, this is a game that obviously is going to be uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure, looking at the character of the man, he'll wear it well in the media room. But that won't stop them from jettisoning him if they think if he hasn't getting a reaction out of them. It's, we've seen it with Ange at Nottingham Forest.
Absolutely.
The owners these days, that the money for a manager, be it 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is, 3 million for this part of the season that he's got is peanuts compared to a relegation.
Harrison, thank you for your call. Darren's waiting to speak to us as well. Darren, how you doing?
How am I doing? Well, I've had better days. I've just left, because I can't do this anymore. What the owners of this football club have done to my football club, it's not their football club. It's my football club as a fan. It's a disgrace and it's heartbreaking. Right? I said, right, and I don't like to be right because my wife always tells me I'm never right. I called Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy when Spurs lost at home to Liverpool in December. And I said to them, this team can get relegated. And they laughed at me. Do you know that? People laughed at me. And Spurs were 300 to 1 to go down. This football team will not win another game this season. And the only people to blame for this are the owners of this football club. And what they've done to this club is what happened to Leeds, what happened to Newcastle, because they are clueless.
Oh, I can feel the heartbreak in your voice there, Darren. And the only thing I can say is, hopefully your wife is right and that you're never right. That's the only solace I can give you. But I can feel it, and you're not going to be the only Tottenham fan feeling this heartbreak.
It'd be interesting what Daniel Levy's where he is with what's happening. Obviously he's been taken out of the club, and it's been a disaster.
He still has an ownership, doesn't he, of the club?
Yeah,
he's just not a figurehead.
But what his opinion of what's going on?
No, but absolutely.
That's my point.
But he might be right now thinking, "See, it wasn't all me, and I was the scapegoat."
Well,
in some ways.
When you talk to us, I don't know. Yeah, but what we're looking at now at the moment is a kind of naivety in terms of the way they're playing. I don't really. I mean, obviously, it's difficult to kind of talk about a team when they're down to 10 men because you're just trying to hang in, and get the best you can out of the game. But
look at all those empty seats.
It's a really, really tough night if you're a Spurs fan. I mean, I'm an ex-player with 4 games under my belt, so of course I have some loyalty to the football club. But it's a really tough night. I'd be interested now, Jamie, after the game when on sports. They'll be full of it, I'm sure.
He will be despondent like Darren was, like the previous callers as well. Darren, thank you very much for your call. Listen, our switchboard is lighting up. Tottenham fans clearly wanting to vent and have their say, and no doubt you can do so
and
still.
To top it all, the referee's mic wasn't working.
Yes, there's a delay.
So we got another 8 extra minutes.
Exactly.
Those poor fans have got to sit there.
Well, the ones that cut it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a little pause in the game as they had to fix all of the electronics when it came to the referee. But look, we will take another break, and no doubt more Tottenham fans will be joining us, and we'll no doubt also bring you an update of what is happening. That is if you want to hear it, Tottenham fans. Palace fans will. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
Fabrizio Romano is the man in question here. But the question that goes from many people at this particular time regarding Fabrizio is there a fine line between being a top journalist and being an influencer? Or can you be both? What's Romano done? He's been criticised after he posted a video on Twitter to his 27 million followers, which essentially, in the eyes of many, was an advert for Saudi Arabia and their humanitarian aid. Now, the video itself is about a couple of minutes long, but we've cut it down. This is Fabrizio.
King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. Over 10 years since its inception, the center has implemented 4,212 projects in 113 countries worldwide, reflecting the leading humanitarian role of Saudi Arabia. 155 cases evaluated, patients from 28 countries across 5 continents. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ranked second globally and first in the Arab world in humanitarian aid for 2025 and topped the list of the largest donors according to the United Nations Financial Tracking Service, FTS.
So for 2 minutes, Fabrizio tells us and lauds and applauds the work that is done by the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Centre. But some other journalists have laid into Fabrizio for the post, some suggesting now that he helps unsettle the transfer market by putting up paid posts from agents and others.
Welcome along to kick off this Thursday evening. Alan Pardew and Natalie Sawyer are with you right now. Let's take you straight back to Ian Abrahams, who's watching Tottenham against Crystal Palace.
2 minutes of normal time to go. Probably, I would say, 7 or 8 minutes of added time because the referee's equipment wasn't working. Spurs 1, Palace 3. Spurs will stay just above West Ham and Forest, a point clear of them with a slightly better goal difference as well, it has to be said. But this has been a lamentable display by Tottenham Hotspur. It really has tonight. And there are, well, so many people left earlier. Run your show, and I'm not being funny, but there's more of a traffic jam outside the stadium now than there will be when the game actually finishes. The second half has pretty much been a non-event. Palace have declared. Spurs just haven't had anything in terms of anything about themselves to go forward and try and get at least a consolation goal back. And I think it's going to be ending 3-1, although Palace have a corner at the moment, which they're going to take on the near side. 90 seconds plus added time to go. Tottenham Hotspur 1, Crystal Palace 3.
Ian, thank you very much. Let's get to more of your calls. Jake has rung up this evening. Jake, thank you for being with us. How are you feeling tonight then?
Oh, where do I start? Where do I start? I just need to know what is going on with this football club. Like, it is absolutely... I'm lost for words. I'm flabbergasted. You know, I've born and raised in Tottenham all my life. I've got mates that are Arsenal that don't stop ringing me 24/7. It's just too much, to be honest with you. And the thing that makes it even worse is there's no drive. There's no passion. I don't see anything anymore. And I'm just confused. I just don't understand. Like, you guys are the experts. Tell me what's going on.
Well, it's difficult to say, you know, from what I've seen tonight. I mean, I agree with you. And from the off, I just surprised by how lacklustre you were in terms of getting in the opposition, making it a problem for Palace. Palace were keeping the ball so easy. And that's before the sending off. The goals were too easy. Some passive defending. I mean, there's a lot to put right in this performance. I mean,
mate, I'm hearing 2 wins at home.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, Jake, because the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium has clearly not been your friend in any way, because this extends to last season as well. What do you think is the problem playing at home?
It's nothing to do with playing at home. It's just there's no drive left in that squad. You know, We put Igor Tudor in there. We can sit there and blame him all we want, 24/7. It's not about him. It's not about the manager. These players are making 150, 200 grand a week, and you're telling me we're struggling against, Crystal Palace and these other teams. And with all due respect to Crystal Palace, great club, great history, but Spurs have just won the Europa League last season. We're fighting relegation. I'm at the stage where it's like, I'm not even going to watch football anymore. Arsenal's about to take the league. Spurs are about to get relegated. And I've got fans coming on the chat sitting there saying, Spurs are this and Spurs are that. Spurs are just absolutely rubbish. We're just not with it at the moment. And I'm sick and tired of it. I've been following this club through and through for years. Been to so many away games, so many home games, so many abroad games. For what? For what to be? I'm 30 years old, mate, and I'm sitting here dealing with all this. It's pathetic. I don't know what to say anymore. I needed to call up and rant. I have no clue anymore.
Well, that's good to have a rant now and again. But you're not alone. I mean, look at all those empty seats, Nat. That was before the game.
Yes.
Like,
Fans were already.
My co-host Maggie, I know, didn't go tonight.
Did he not?
No.
Jake, thank you very much for your call. It's just been one of those nights to forget once more for Tottenham. But that's the problem. It's once more. It's not a rarity. This is just ongoing for Tottenham.
The facts are you've got 9 games left now.
Yeah.
You've got 9 games left and they're 1 point from the relegation zone. I mean, even 6 games ago, I said, no, they won't end up down there. But, it's transpiring at the moment that it's got, and things go against you, like the sending off today. Although he's the wrong side, and you could argue, okay, he's at fault for sure in his positional play. He's brought him down for a penalty, but you could always argue a little bit unfortunate, to be in that situation and go down to 10 men. So it depends which way you look at it. But when you are down there, unfortunately, as we've said many, many times over many, many years, the luck goes against you too.
Yeah.
You've got to sort of try and earn some luck.
And the other issue, of course, is that we are seeing a bit more fight from West Ham, from Nottingham
At the
Forest.
moment we are, yeah.
At the moment. And you could even extend that to Wolves and Burnley, although you might look at them as a slightly different perspective in the sense that maybe the shackles are off a little bit because they're already assuming that they're down. Just in a word, do you think Tottenham will go down from what you're seeing?
Well, from what I'm seeing, I would say yes. But from what my heart and my head is telling me, I don't think they'll go down. I still think there's enough in that squad to get out of it.
Well, that might provide some solace to some very angry and disheartened Tottenham fans this evening. The game is still ongoing. It's into added on time right now. So no doubt the boys on the sports bar will keep you right across that. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing from a very, disappointed, disheartened, angry, and no doubt, frustrated Tottenham fan in Jamie O'Hara. He's alongside Jason Cundy. Keep your calls coming into them. Let them know how you're feeling, Tottenham fans. And likewise, Palace fans. Are you now thinking we're going to be safe?
They're safe.
That 10 points is enough now?
As a Crystal Palace fan, I can tell you. Well, I'm a fan of a few clubs, but
I was going to say, I never know which club you support.
Well, when you've been at football clubs in a manager, you support them all.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, no, you do. You got your heart is still in them.
There you go. 03717 223344. That's the number to call them on. Alan, it's been a joy. Thank you, as always.
Thank you, Natalie.
You're tuning in to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.